Welcome to Chatsunami. Buongiorno everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chatsunami. I'm Satsunami, and joining me today for this totally golden experience is my very good friend BlowfishmanTV. Blowfish, welcome back.
Thank you so much for welcoming me back in. Man, Satsu, I'm not gonna lie to you, I did speedrun through this episode, so I hope my commentary isn't deemed, useless, as Dio would love to say.
Yes, as the kids say, that is indeed a big muda.
Oh yeah, big muda. F, yep.
Yep, there are going to be a lot of jokes like this, so if you're not into that, please turn over the channel. No, I'm joking.
Get out of here. No, please stay.
No, please. Flick through, trust me.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, before we start, I thought that a very good thing that we could start off with is, recapping the parts that we've already covered. And you know what? I thought we could just, take some time, maybe an hour or two, just to recap. And then,
For sure.
we can, get into part 5. So,
yeah, sounds good to me, man.
As we were talking about before, part 1, of course, is the story about
King Crimson.
And who knew that someone could be that into hands?
I know, right? That's so wild. Like,
Yeah.
jeez.
I guess you could
You're
say
the best villain. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, who saw that coming? Really, who saw that?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I hope you guys agree at home about like our analysis there. It took us hours just to record that.
Oh my god. Yeah. Jesus.
I get the feeling there are going to be a lot of non-JoJo fans that are confused, but you know what?
Hey, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
This is a JoJo podcast, but hey, for those who tune in, watching us because they like me and Satsu,
Yeah.
hope you're not too lost with the jokes.
Oh, yeah, there will be a lot of jokes like this. Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, today we are indeed going to be talking about Part 5, Golden Wind. And you know what? I have actually, ever since we recorded Part 4, and I still maintain that Part 4 is one of the best episodes that we have recorded. It was such a lot of fun to do.
Great episode, yep.
It was really fun. Yeah, I'm really excited to go over this part. Out of curiosity, see, before you even got to this part, what did you know about Golden Wind?
Honestly speaking, before I jumped into Golden Wind, I knew that, there was memes about it. I've seen the memes around, the Arrivederci meme. What else? The Muda meme, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The 7-page Muda, what it was called, Satsu, I believe.
Yeah,
there's that. I also had someone mentioned it to me that, the main character of the 5th part of JoJo is related to Dio. And I'm like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what dragged me in. And I was just like, that's interesting. So how does that work? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, when I jumped into it, pretty much speedran it for the most part.
It's quite funny because even before I started JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, again, it was one of those shows where it was like, oh, the memes and everything, and everything was kind of popping up here, there, and everywhere. But I remember, of all places, I was on a holiday. Well, I was visiting a friend in Sweden, and he was a really big anime fan. And for some reason, we got talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And one of my other friends who also watches anime was like, "Oh yeah, I watched part 1, and then I just skipped to part 5."
Yeah.
Ever since then, all I heard was, Part 5's amazing, Part 5 is the pinnacle of the series. It was really hyped up. Was it the same for you?
Not necessarily the same for me. I heard that part 3 was the best from every JoJo fan I knew. Was part 3 is so good. And sometimes you get the echo of part 2 was the best and all that.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Part 5, all I heard was that main characters related to Dio, and that's what sort of dragged me. And I'm like, oh, are they? Basically starting some sort of new family bloodline or something, Yeah. That's all I heard about part 5 and some of the memes.
Oh yeah, the memes just encompass, It's who needs a bulletin board or a news channel or a Twitter page when you've got the memes of JoJo? I feel as if that's where it's getting its traction from. You could post a random
100%.
JoJo meme at any corner of the internet and people would just be like, oh, I know that. That's a JoJo reference.
Oh yeah, 100%, right? See?
Well, sorry, you get two reactions. You get that one, or you get a, oh Jesus, is that a JoJo reference?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just people just like, oh no, no. Don't you come in here with your arrivedercis and your mudas and things.
On your mudas and you know, like all the wine and like the three dudes beating up that one dude, you know.
Oh, that's such a good scene as well.
That was a great scene.
I think I touched on this in part 3 discussion, that I had like a big gap between watching part 3 and then watching part 4 because, and again, this is the hot take of the night, that I wasn't that great a fan of 3 and then absolutely loved 4, and then I jumped into 5 because people kept talking about it. And it's certainly an interesting part, I have to say, and that seems like the most like non-committal answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, especially since, you know, we really hyped up like part 4, and then you get into part 5 and there's a lot of changes from the art style to the way the characters are kind of carried across. Like, did you notice that? Like, see, taking the example of like the very first scene where we're introduced to Giorno, who is of course our JoJo of this part.
Yep.
Did you feel that way? This was quite different from part 4, or did you feel as if it was similar, or like what was your thoughts?
100%, man. Like you know, the beginning is just showing, you know, our lovely main JoJo of this part, Giorno. You know, he's kind of just chilling, living his life, just you know, walking around town. You know, the thing that sort of like dragged me in as well in the beginning scene was, you know, how he helped out that kid get an ice cream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so you know, he's not, you know, totally a mysterious sort of like main character, like an air of mystique to him. He definitely does have that. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
But he's also got like a, you know, a good heart.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that in the beginning they did portray that very, very well when it came to introducing Giorno, you know what I mean? Art style was wildly different in a sense that like they went from, as you said in the earlier stages of this podcast, they went from, you know, a good hybrid of parts 1 to 3 with the new art style of part 5. You know, they had the good hybrid in part 4. And then now they just did too much of the new art style. So you won't see any of those like buff boys that you're usually seeing. But you will see some, you know, pretty ladies still. But the buff boys are gone, so sorry to disappoint for people going into part 5.
Yeah. See, I was actually thinking about this before we started recording, but it's almost as if they've done the opposite of getting characters to stand out. So, for example, like, you knew a guy was like a main character if he was built like a truck. In like parts 1 to 3. Like, if he's a 17-year-old and honestly he's got like huge like yeah, exactly, then you know, like, you know you're screwed. Whereas for part like 4 they definitely toned it down. Like, people are still buff. I think you mentioned this as well. Like, people are still buff, but they're realistically buff, or more on a realistic, more realistic. Yeah. Part 5, they do the opposite thing where they just make them the centre of attention. It's a bit jarring to begin with, because it's like, it is. Everyone around is very normal. And I know that sounds weird to say in an anime, like, oh, they're normal, but like, you know, they've got like very toned down colours in their clothes and things, and you know, just not generic. I don't want to say that because the art style's good, or not the art style, but like the artwork is like really nice for some of this. But yeah, it's like Giorno just looks like a sore thumb. He just sticks out like a sore thumb.
He sticks out so hard, right? With the hair, with the look, his eyes, you know, the colors of his clothing too.
I mean, the fact
like everything.
The fact he's exposing his chest, just
that too. Yeah. You know, like the ripped boy he is, or like what the previous art style was. You know what I mean?
And I mean, the fact he's got like Dunkin' Donuts on his head. I mean,
he's got donuts. Yep.
How do you even get that hairstyle? Like,
no, ask Giorno.
Oh, like, I know obviously that's like a stereotypical, oh, how does protagonist in this anime get this hairstyle? But
you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, even Goku's made more sense. It's like, just get a lot of gel. It's like,
get a lot of gel, you know, grow your hair, that's pretty much it. Get a perm maybe.
Yeah, Giorno's like, if he had like a curler and he just like sat the whole day with 3 of them attached to his forehead, just like,
that's what I thought. Like,
because even when he goes to sleep and things, his hair's never down. It's like, it's always like permanently stuck. It's like, Is that part of your stand ability?
Reminds me of like, the mom from Kung Fu Hustle, if you watch that
Oh,
song. Yeah, it has
yes.
like those three curlers.
Yes. Maybe it is just permanent curlers. He's just ready.
Yeah, fuck, you know what I mean?
I don't know. Maybe Naples just has a shortage of like hairstylists, or maybe
Yeah.
they're just too avant-garde. I mean, it is Italy.
Yes, it is based in Italy. You are correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's the city of fashion. Oh, not the city. Sorry, it's the country of fashion, as
Oh,
they
yeah.
say. Um,
And the country of, black ink squid spaghetti or something like that.
oh yeah.
Oh no!
Oh no. Yeah. Oh, so good. Actually, I nearly forgot that we've already been to Italy in JoJo,
Yeah.
like via part 2, which is quite interesting to see them return. Because, I mean, technically they didn't see much outside the city in part 2.
They didn't.
Whereas
Nope,
in
they
part
did not.
4, they're just like, oh, hey, here's Naples. Oh, look
Yeah,
at all these,
right.
look at all this horrible,
Look at all the architecture. There's a
Yeah.
Coliseum. There's this, and that. There's nice restaurants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gondolas and all that.
It's such like, and I'll kind of get to my gripes about some of the artwork, but see, like, for the locations and things, absolutely beautiful. I mean, Iraqi, like, I'll point this out now, Iraqi is a total, like, don't know what you would call it, but like, is it a Westaboo? Like the
Is that,
opposite.
sorry?
A
Oh, the
Westaboo,
equivalent
yeah.
of like
A
I know
weeaboo,
what
yeah.
you mean. A weeaboo.
But like
Cowboy aboo.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, he loves cowboys, and he loves
does.
like Italy. Like, I'm not dissing Italy; it's a beautiful place. But like,
Oh, it is.
he's just like really into Italy, and you can tell like the amount he really loves Italy. In this part,
So much.
I mean, the whole part is set. They never really leave Italy. Because I'm just trying to think, like, there are other parts that do stay in one location. Because I'm thinking of, like, part 1 was set, like, primarily in England until they got in the boat. Part 2 is, like, part 2 and 3 are, like, the jumping about. And then part 4, like, remains in Japan as well. And then part 5, I think, is where Iraqi's just let loose. And he's just like, yes, I get to talk about Italy now. My favourite.
Finally.
Finally.
Yes.
Yeah, that's his like requiem stand,
Oh my
which is
god.
something real. Oh, sorry, before I go on, yeah, spoilers abound as usual. We are going to dive into spoilers. There were a couple of minor spoilers there,
Oh,
but
yeah,
these
for
are
sure.
like these are mainly things that happen in the first episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going forward, there are going to be spoilers. So it's a very interesting start. But I think I mentioned this in like either part 3 or 4, and this is a very minor nitpick, but for some reason I don't like the eyes of these characters, and I've got no idea why. I think
Yes, I agree with that. I also don't like how they did the noses. Is that just me?
yeah, there's just something a bit off about them.
There is.
I don't know what it is.
100%.
Like, see, I actually got called out by one of my friends who was like, oh, part 4 is the most generic anime looking art style wise, and I'm like, oh yes, that's why I like it. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly, right? I'm like, it's something we're more used to seeing.
yeah. Whereas part 5 is like eyelashes that are going to the heavens, and
Yeah.
it's like I just think there's too much going on with some of the features, and I get it. Like, that's his art style going forward, so it's never gonna change. Even I don't know if you saw the Rohan spin-off
I
anime.
haven't. Is it good? I've actually never seen
Yeah,
it.
actually, I would recommend it. I think a couple of the episodes are on Netflix. Like, certainly a couple of them are. It's a really interesting, like, spin. But they use part 5, like, animation on it.
Okay.
Or part 5 art style. It's not as distracting, I will admit. For some characters,
Okay.
it definitely is. You're just like, it's like this big buff guy, like, training, and then he's got the huge eyelashes, and you're like,
Yeah, no kidding, right?
like, tone this down, someone, please. Just take away the budget for the eyelash department. And again, I've
Yeah,
got
right?
nothing against huge eyelashes or anything, but it's just...
Oh, hell no.
Oh, it's just, it's strange. And again, that's a very minor, like, nitpick. But of course, this part begins... My god, I just spent 5 minutes ranting about eyelashes. I think this is the only time I can ever like just be like, and another thing about the eyelashes. Yeah, this part really starts off interesting. It's a really interesting, like a brief but succinct, I would say, dive into Giorno's character. I don't know if you think the same. Just like, it establishes that he is very kind, he's very streetwise, but he's also like not a complete monster. Like, for example, you can see at the beginning he stops two women from getting a purse stolen, but he still steals their money. But then he uses the money to buy himself an ice cream and to buy like this random child who he doesn't know. Yeah, just a random, just ice cream. And it's like, okay, that's pretty nice. Yeah, like in those couple of scenes, it does establish him very firmly.
It does, and it's good. I like it.
And then, of course, we get to the main, like, A-plot where, whether you love him or hate him, he's the Marmite of JoJo. That, of course, being Koichi, who lands in Italy for the very first time, and after being, like, written in to learn Italian, which, my God, I wish someone would do that. To me, just be like, you know Italian.
Well, your Italian's good. Speaks Japanese.
Oh, that is so funny. Yeah, just to give context. It's one of those anime things which some animes do approach it differently, some don't. Like The Great Pretender does a really interesting thing with that, where they actually get some of the characters to actually speak the language that they're speaking. But then some of them it's just like, well, for this anyway, it's like they speak entirely in Japanese, but they're obviously supposed to be speaking Italian. And yeah, as you said, it's like the subtitles like, wow, your Italian's amazing. And it's like, my God, Koichi, did you just like open up the wrong Duolingo course? And you're just like, there's a lot of kanji in this Italian. It's like, well, you know what? I'm sure it's fine. It's like, Koichi made a terrible mistake that day. But yeah, they eventually bump into one another. And of course, he doesn't know it initially, but that's, of course, the person that he's trying to hunt down. Because I think, is it Joseph that gives the heads up that Giorno's, like, out and about as Dio's son?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't remember. I think it is, like, he gives, like, the hermit purple. Is it the him? Yeah.
It's purple, and he punches the camera. You know how it goes.
Oh, yeah. By part 5, you know.
Oh, you already know how this goes, guys.
So, of course, Jotaro, like a very... how do I say this in the nicest way possible? Like a very responsible adult sends a school child to hunt after the son of a immortal vampire.
Yeah, mortal vampire who stole his great-great-grandfather's body?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, why? You know what? It's like, fair enough. It's good to see Koichi again.
Yeah.
And not as, like, you know, crying in fear or anything, like genuinely kicking ass and being proactive with a lot of things. And of course, eventually, like, he figures out, in fact, sorry, even before that, Giorno, like, scams him or tries to scam him.
Yeah.
And he ends up making off with, like, his wallet and everything. And this is when you basically see Giorno's, like, stand power. Yeah. Where do we even begin with Golden Wind or Golden Experience or whatever you want to call it? Like,
honestly, it is, I'm not too sure how I would describe his power. It can do
anything.
It's like... Actually, though, like, rebirth, destruction, like, it's essentially kind of like having the power of God. It's kind of weird, you know what I mean? Like literally the power of creation, which is very OP if you think about it.
It is very, like, OP. Like, I mean, in the first couple of minutes, like, so earlier I said that he ended up stealing the money from the two, like, female tourists, and you might be thinking, oh, did he just, you know, put his hand in and pluck it out while they weren't looking? It's like, no. He turns their money into butterflies, which fly to him, and then turn back into money, and then again with Koichi's his suitcase, he turns that into a frog and then, like, steals the frog, which turns back into the suitcase, like, and it's like,
it's so weird. Like, he can literally make anything out of anything. It's
and it can
mind blowing, you know.
And he can even, like, grow trees and things like that. It's just it is strange. It's
very strange.
It's a cool ability, but it's so OP.
It is.
And of course, he ends up getting into a bit of a spat with I don't even know. I'm assuming it's just another guy who's like a scam artist who is just like, he carries around a Roman shovel that has like it has like SPQR on it, and it's like, why? Just, like, I mean, it's cool, but it's just like, okay, fair enough. And he gets his ass handed to him by Giorno because, I mean, my God, this guy can turn anything into anything. Why would you approach this man?
Right? Exactly, right?
And then, yeah, it's like... So then you've got kind of two not mini plots, like that's kind of underselling it, but you've got Koichi trying to find Giorno, and then you get the introduction of the Jobro and
Bruno.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna let you describe this guy, because remember how we said earlier how Giorno sticks out like a sore thumb?
Oh, boy.
How does Bruno stick out?
Oh my God! You guys think that Giorno sticks out like a sore thumb? Bruno sticks out like a sore foot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh my God! The guy has like white clothing exposing his chest. He's got like a bob haircut, very skinny dude. Personality is actually really cool. As a joke, the community likes to call him the mom of the JoJo series, and
totally.
You start seeing it as time goes on, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
About Bruno himself as a character, though he does stick out like a sore foot, he's very well put together. I don't know if you got that, like if you got that feeling from him, Satsu, as well. He's like very well put together. He's responsible. He has a good sense of leadership as well, which is very, very interesting to see,
And he seems to know what he's doing, because in the very first encounter, so his power... honestly, I was actually laughing
at... It's a great power, dude.
It really is cool. But it's like,
good.
I was laughing because I remember, I don't know if you remember this, like, see in part 3, where it's like a lot of the stand users, you couldn't really tell what their powers were by looking at them. Like, I mean, you look at... Kakyoin, for example, you would have no idea that he would be able to shoot like emeralds out of like Hierophant green. I was trying to think of like Weird Snake Man or some other funny joke, but you know what?
Yeah, right.
You know what? Bruno's funny enough for the way he looks, because it's like all of them, have this kind of look where you honestly would have no idea what their different stands are, and that's what makes it kind of unnerving, because you don't know who you're going to be facing. You don't know, except for Whole Horse. Like, I mean, my God, the guy wears a Stetson and carries a gun. Like, if you don't know he's going to be a cowboy, that's
the
on
most
you.
American power ever.
Exactly. That's on you if you don't know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But for the majority of them, like even them, it's a character we didn't really touch on in part 3, but the Polnareff's, the person who killed his sister, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but the guy who killed his mum, who like had like all the witchy powers, who's like a kind of frail old woman, but she has like a really terrifying stand, and it's like you don't really know like what these guys are capable of. Even Dio, they spent like ages being like, oh, what's a word though? What is it? Yeah, and then Bruno like rocks up and he's got zips all over over his
he
body.
Punches you and he literally creates a zipper on you. Like, it's weird.
And it's got
it's awesome.
But he creates like a kind of extra portal or something like that as well inside it. It's really cool.
Yeah, you would think that at face value you'd be like, this is a fucking weird power, dude. But how he uses his power is what makes it so good, right? He's very creative with it and very intuitive with it, So that's what makes it good.
And I mean, you see that throughout the series, like from like kind of close calls to just the way he fights people, and it's really cool because you're like, oh, how's he going to use it next? What's he going to do? And it's really interesting. And of course, we get our first we actually get to see. I can't remember if we get to see Golden Experience or Golden Wind's Giorno stand for the first time.
He finally shows what it looks like.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we see it in action, but I can't remember if we see it before. I don't think we do. But then we get the very over the top, very campy pose where he's just hugging it, and you're like, oh my God, this could be like in the front of Vogue or something. It's like JoJo Vogue. It's like, what?
JoJo pose, yo.
Yeah.
JoJo pose.
Oh, the JoJo poses in this one are just unbelievable.
They're wild, and it's good. It's great.
Oh, it's fantastic. But yeah, eventually, kind of jumping ahead, he ends up beating him to not a bloody pulp, but he does beat him up. Geez. And we get to see how OP Golden Experience is. It's like, oh no. oh, this is
Oh no.
this is not
Pretty
good.
much.
And then Giorno basically establishes to Bruno, and I don't want to sound like Captain Planet, but he basically says like, drugs bad. I want to be a good crime lord. And it's like,
Actually, though, yeah.
yeah, it's like bit of an oxymoron. You want to be a good crime lord, but you know what? I'll run with it. I'll run with it. I'll take it. And yeah, that's his aim. A bit like, I suppose, like Luffy and One
pretty
Piece.
much,
Like,
right?
yeah, it's like instead of being king of the pirates, he just wants to be king of the mafia.
Yeah, actually, though.
Yeah.
Wants to be the next boss.
Yeah, and honestly, the shit he goes through to actually get there is it's just incredible. Both
Yeah,
in good,
that's good and bad, you know what I mean?
Well, the next like thing he tries to do, and I was actually laughing because I can't remember what his name is again. You're the like massive guy that he has to find in the prison. Like
Oh my god, Doppio?
Doppio?
No.
No.
Is it Doppio?
I don't know.
Oh my god, I forgot his name too, but like, yeah, the one where he goes to prison and, you know, it's basically him going through his test of getting into the mafia, right?
Can I just say, like, a funny story? When I first saw that character, I saw the meme edits of him, but like someone had edited it, so it was like Giorno's hair and Giorno's like coat over it, and I was like, is this like a second form of Giorno?
Right?
Or is this like, is he a shapeshifter? Who is he? And it's like, no, it just turns out he's like, have you ever seen Despicable Me?
Yes.
Yeah, you know Gru? It's like an anime version of that.
Yes.
With, like,
oh my god, I thought I was the only one who thought that.
Yeah, like the pointy nose and like the huge kind of round body. It's like, oh, this is a very unnerving character.
I got it now, Satsu. It's Polpo. I was like, it was something Polpo. There we go. That was his name. I'm like, there we go.
Yeah, I guess I completely blanked on that there. I was like, who is this? Who is this strange?
There's a big boy. In the prison who decides who gets to join the mafia. That's pretty much what we're getting at, guys.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. He's both big in stature and in real life.
Yeah.
And he essentially gives Giorno like this lighter and says, you know, take it home and make sure that it doesn't go out, because if it does, then, you know, there'll be hell to pay. So, long story short, Giorno's like, I won't mess this up. And then it's like 2 seconds later, Giorno messes it up, and
it's like that one SpongeBob episode with like with the paint. I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
if you remember, that's what it made me feel like. Yeah.
It's like, oh, Giorno, why? And then eventually they come across like another stand, and we get like a second big battle where Koichi has to team up with Giorno to fight him, and this is when we get our first muda, I think, of the series.
Yep.
Yeah. So of course you might be wondering, like, for anyone who hasn't seen this part, you might be wondering, like, oh, what is the muda? It basically just is the Japanese word for useless, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, like roughly translated to like useless.
Yeah. And it's something that Dio yelled a lot whenever he was fighting, and of course
that was like his favorite word.
Yeah. Yeah, if you had like a Venn diagram, like muda would just be everywhere. It's just like
chunk of it. Yeah, muda, you're approaching me. The world, you know, like we should make like an honest Venn diagram.
Oh, we should. Just like, how many times did he say? You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if someone had already like made that up and been like, yes, muda was said like 527 times. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, eventually he beats him up, you know, and he ends up, and again, just OP stand. He goes into the prison being like, haha, you know, I completed your task, and he gives him a banana. Which again, referring back to Despicable Me, it's like, here's a banana. It turns out the banana's not a banana, but indeed a gun. So if you're ever, you know, eating a banana, just make sure it's not a gun. So he bites into what was a banana. It turns into a gun, and he accidentally shoots himself straight through the head, and that means there's like now this power vacuum where Bruno is now going to step up as like is it the head, like Kappa or something?
The Capo, yeah.
Capo,
after Polpo died, he had to step up because he was like, he was essentially Polpo's second in command, so he deserves it. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, he's just like, job opportunity, and it's free real estate. He just gets in there. It's like, you know what? You
and
can
who knows
appreciate
who Polpo, you know?
Yeah, it's like...
so my thing with that scene, Satsu, is like how does he not prevent himself from shooting himself is the real question, you know what I mean?
To put it nicely, he's a greedy bastard. I think that's why. It's just like, oh boy, I love him. Yeah, I don't even get that. Like,
Yeah, he could have stopped himself. I don't
yeah,
fucking know.
like he's just
That was
like,
one of my things. I'm like, could he stopped himself?
it's like
That was like me.
you know that Kung Fu Panda meme where it's like Masugui going, "My time has come."
Yeah,
it's like I think
actually,
that's him. He's just like he's looking at the gun, just like, "My time has come," and then that's it. He just blows his brains out. It's like, oh no. Yeah, eventually that. Well, sorry. Before we go on, it ends Koichi's part of the story, and. Yep. I honestly feel as if there wasn't really much of a reason to have Koichi in the story, like at the beginning, other than to say, this is Dio's son. Like, I don't know, did you feel that way, or...
Oh, like for Koichi to, like, state that?
Yeah, no, like, Koichi to be in the story, or be in this part in general. Like, same with Jotaro, it almost feels as if they're in it at the big...
I feel like that wasn't super duper necessary.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like Araki was just trying to find a way to, like, kind of tie part 4 into part 5, you know, like, kind of like make it a sequel, but not really. I don't know. I didn't think it was super necessary to have them there. I feel like it would have been a better idea to, like, for Giorno to find out somehow about his ancestry, not necessarily, you know, Koichi being like, hey, so yeah, this is Dio's son, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wish they kind of, like, did a bit of that, you know what I mean?
Once the banana gun goes off, that's it. Yeah. Like, Koichi is no longer relevant in this story. Yeah. Like, it's pretty much. He buggers off, and that's it. He leaves.
Goes back home.
Yeah, he goes back home. In fact, no, does he not go on holiday or something? Like, around Italy? I don't even
know.
I can't even remember.
I think he does. I think he does then goes home.
Yeah, and that's it. Like,
he's like, I'm here anyway. He's like, I'm here anyway. Might as well party it up for a week and then go home. Right?
It's like that. It's like that episode in The Simpsons where it's like, I must go. Morio needs me. It's like, it's just like the frames of Koichi just going up the screen. It's like, Koichi died on his way to his hometown. But yeah, Killer Queen has already touched the plane. Anyway, plot twist. So yeah, it eventually leads to just basically well, not a road trip, but like one big escort mission. Honestly, I feel as if I'm underselling it, but it does.
No. Like, you're not wrong. Like it literally is an escort mission.
Yeah, like so we're introduced. Like even before we get to the escort mission, like we're introduced to basically the main Jobros of this part. So we've of course got Narancha, who is how to put it? Like,
he's like the Gen Z kid of the group.
Pretty much, yeah.
Actually. Youngest as well, you know. Oh yeah. He's like what, 16, 17 maybe?
I think he's actually older than Giorno.
Wait, what?
I could be wrong. Yeah, please. No, look that up, because see, I thought that because like I think I was watching someone else's video in part 5, and I think they said the same thing. Oh, Narancha's like really young, the youngest of the group, and then one of the comments was like, does someone want to tell them? It's like, no, that's not true. It's like, there is no way.
You're right.
Is it?
Narancha's older than Giorno by 2 years, 17 and 15. Jeez. So that's crazy. Okay, I had it the other way around, essentially.
See, that's what I thought. Like, I actually didn't know that until I saw that comment, and I was like, okay.
And he acts like the youngest too, so that's the thing, right? So,
he's definitely like the class clown. And of course, the other two that we'll get introduced to are Fugo, who is we'll get to him.
We'll get into him. He's a very interesting character in a good way for me. So yeah,
he's a thing.
He is.
He's a placeholder, but we'll get to
yeah. Sad to say he really is a placeholder.
Yeah. And then, of course, we've got one of your favourite characters, actually. Is it Abakio?
Yeah, I liked Abakio. I don't know. I liked him a lot. Like, he was one of my favorites because, like, I always see, like, a lot of these asshole characters who side with the good guys, right? And I'm like, there's gotta be, like, a reason as to why he's such an ass, you know what I mean? And you find out your reason, you're like, oh, dang, that's actually really sad. Or like, okay, I don't blame him for being the way he is at this point, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you start seeing him, like, those usual asshole characters kind of start warming up. Maybe if they want to take it in a more comedic light, you know, those asshole characters become more and more tsundere, whether they're male or female, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You heard it here, guys. Like, Blowfishman digs the asshole characters, so...
Yeah, I'll just put that in the poster. Blowfish endorses this character.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. And of course, like the final character, which I nearly missed there, was Mista, who I have to admit, initially I really hated his design, but the more I got to know him, don't get me wrong, his design's still silly, but
it is
like
so silly.
Oh, but I really liked his character. And that
Mhm.
is honestly the thing. Like, this is something that JoJo does really well. When it comes to, like, the JoBros, or basically the side characters who are accompanying the main hero. I mean, especially in this part, they're just dripping in both character and the fact that they've all got established roles. Except for Fugo, but we will get to him again.
Poor guy. Rip.
I mean, the rest of them, like Narancha, as we said, he is basically the class clown, acts, half his age. Mista, very paranoid about the number 4, which the only thing about that is I feel as if that's more of a Japanese thing.
Honestly speaking, yeah.
Like, I know I don't know enough about like Japanese as a language, but I know in Chinese they really don't like the number 4 because it sounds exactly the same as the word for death, like "s." So like they really don't, and I'm assuming it's something very similar in Japanese, but he always refers to like feng shui and things like that, and not liking the number 4, and like even still, it's a really interesting trait to have. It's like it's not something that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is he is, and I'll get to like his stand power eventually, but he's like a good version of Whole Horse. That's all I'm gonna say just now.
Yeah, like a cool, like an actual cool version of Whole Horse, Mafia Whole Horse.
Yeah, like if Whole Horse had the right personality and a cooler power.
And the gun power is actually a lot more creative. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, it's like it's not just he pulls out a gun and starts shooting randomly and he can curve bullets and all of this rubbish.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Don't worry, Avril's not in this part, so he can't shoot him.
Oh, well, that sucks.
Yeah, I know. Too far. And then Abakio, of course, as you said, like he's got this like really gritty past and everything, and it's good because a lot of the episodes dive into the backgrounds. We get to see the way they introduce like themselves, and like how a lot of them are standoffish, but a lot of them end up warming up to Giorno, because initially they think, oh, he's he's weird, or not he's weird, but he's not one of us, and even Bruno's just like, now you kids behave. And eventually it leads to a pee drinking scene because
I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
Bakio like pees into a teacup and makes him drink it, and Giorno has like this weird thing where he drinks it, but it's like, haha, it's okay because I turned my tooth into a jellyfish, and it's like, Giorno, you still drank pee.
God, I forgot about it. Yeah, it's like, bro, you still drank pee though. What the fuck, dude?
It's like, it absorbed 90-something%, and it's like, there's still
but the little percent that
I was really just like, oh no, even
bruh.
You did not win this.
No, Giorno, stop. No matter how you word it, Giorno, it's okay.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It's like, when you get like those kind of, and again, I don't want to undersell this part, but you get like the kind of like coming of age films where it's like, oh, you can only be in our group if you do something disgusting, like touch that dog poop or something.
Yeah, it's like, that's essentially what happened.
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, all we had to do was drink a cup of pee to
get in, pretty much.
And eventually that leads them to the escort mission part of the show, where they basically go over to Capri, like on a boat to Capri, which, by the way, beautiful place. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
That's a nice place.
This is Satsu's travel guide section of the episode. No, really beautiful place. But they go there, and sorry, before I go on, like, one of the things that this part, like, I don't know if you agree, but like the stand powers are a lot more weird in this part.
They 100% are.
In part 3, like, for me anyway, personally, like, they didn't really know what they were doing with the stands, or it felt like that, because a lot of them were like really overpowered or just stupid, looking at you strength, whereas like part 4 was a bit more toned down but kind of more realistic. Part 5 is just balls to the wall crazy. As we said, we've got like
actually
Giorno, who can turn like random things into other random things. We have Zipper Man, or Sticky Fingers as he's known, but because of copyright
Little
issues.
Bomber as well.
Which is literally just a little bomber. It's literally just a tiny airplane.
Moody Blues, what else is there? Purple Haze, that's a lot of copyright in like one anime.
Oh yeah. Apparently, like, fun fact, I think there was meant to be a PlayStation. There's a PlayStation 2 game of Golden Wind that I don't think it got released in the West. Well, this was years ago. I don't think it got released in the West because of the copyright. You know, having
that's what I
Golden,
heard.
like Golden Wind and everything else. Which I was like, it would have been copyright hell for them, but
for sure.
But yeah, they're just weird, and you might be wondering why, like, I've waited until now to say this. Well, yeah, there's a boat inside of a boat, or there's a stand user who disguised
inside of a boat.
Yeah, like
why you said that?
Yeah, it's like he's got like this like stand that covers the entire boat, so it's like another boat, and it drags people under and things. It's creative, but it's really it's just so surreal. And then of course you get Giorno, who honestly, like, one by one they're getting picked off. So it's like Narancha's first, he just gets like sucked into the bottom. Then there's Mista, and then all the other ones get. And then Giorno's like, well, this was fun, and he jumps down to like see where the stand's coming from. And I think it's thanks to Bruno that they actually find where the guy is. Oh god, it's one of the most. Will we talk about that scene, the torture dance? I'll let you describe it. Sorry.
Okay, so when they find the mysterious stand user in the boat who's trying to kill them, what happens is so Bruno punches him where to the point where the zipper man creates his zippers. This is the English version of the stand, and one of the zippers just basically sort of decapitates him. Right, he's still alive, obviously. Yeah. For some reason, because stand powers. So what they did was that I think they tied his head to something or just left it somewhere.
No, it's horrible. They put a fish hook, through his eyelid.
That's what it was. Yes,
and they throw him like around.
They throw
he's like hanging on the rails at the side.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Narancha, Fugo, and I believe Mista, they start dancing around his head. It's as literal and weird as it sounds, guys. They start dancing around his head while this is all happening, and then as his eyes are wide open, they're putting his head in the direction of the sun. So I'm just like, oh, that's a lot more messed up than I thought. You know what I mean? And then they're just dancing around to fuck with him. That's literally it's called the torture dance scene. That search it up, guys, for any non-Joe Bros in chat. You know what I mean?
Well, can we just point out how much that song slaps? Because that song slaps.
It slaps. It slaps pretty hard, guys.
It's a very catchy tune. Even if you don't want to see that, just type in
torture dance song.
Yeah, honestly, JoJo. I can't believe I'm recommending. Yeah, type in JoJo after it if you don't want the FBI or anything.
They'd be like, huh?
Why the hell is he looking up torture dance song?
Right.
And then they add JoJo after it, okay, yeah, carry on.
And then what's funny? The best part is as they're dancing, I believe it's either Abakio or Bruno stops them. He's like, stop fucking around or something like that. I'm like, oh, it's that's something they just stop doing it.
It's like, oh man.
I believe it was Abakio who said to stop. You know what I mean?
I think so, because he's definitely the more serious one of the group.
Oh yeah.
And of course that eventually leads to them getting to Capri and encountering, let's face it, the mystery gang of the mafia. Scooby-Doo. Yeah. I'm not saying they're equivalent.
Actually, though, the mystery gang.
I don't know how to describe these guys. So basically, I think since the previous capo has been capoed off, haha.
I know, right?
Since he is dead, there's this power vacuum in that area, and there's a random group of people random group of stand users in the mafia who are like, oh, okay, we are gonna fight. So basically, sorry, before going, what they're looking for is they're looking for the daughter of the boss of the entire mafia of Italy.
The head of the snake. Yep.
Yeah, basically just the head honcho, the absolute... basically
boss.
A guy who is shrouded in mystery up until the second part, but we will get to that. But we get to see, these stand users, every turn try to stop them. Very, very weird people. I mean, you've got one that can, freeze water, got one that can shrink people.
One with a fishing pole as well.
Oh, jeez. Oh, God, I forgot about
one with, a shark that bites your tongue or something like that.
Yeah.
What else was there? Oh man, there was a lot of weird stand use in this one. Guys, just bear with us here, because so the only thing that I didn't like about that part, Satsu, was when it was literally an escort mission.
Yeah.
They sort of brought it back to part 3 where it was like flavor of the week or like monster of the week, as you would put it, right? So watching it, one of the reasons as to why I speedran it, guys, personally, was because of that reason. I'm just like, oh, they're doing this again. Okay, great, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do some stuff and put it in the background. As bad as that sounds, people absolutely love part 5, and I'm not gonna get on people who love it. That's fine. But like, to me, I'm just like, oh, they kind of recycled this story, didn't they? You know what I mean?
No,
and I'm like, right?
I totally agree with you on that one. It just felt as if they were... So maybe it's just me being biased because, like, I really loved part 4. I know you loved part 4 as well, but it felt as if, for the most part, there was, like, a natural continuation of the story. Like, it wasn't just, like, you would have the flavour of... Well, there was some, like, towards the end of it, but for the most part it was like you would have an enemy stand user, but then 9 times out of 10 they would pop up later as like either a supporting character or referenced or something, except for the rats, but we don't talk about the rats. Part 4. Everyone forgets about the rats. Until they're brought up again, it's like, why is there sniper rats in this? Like, what?
Oh my god! I think we did like neglect to mention that in our part 4. I think we did.
I think we skimmed over it. Yeah, I think we skimmed over it.
That was one of the things in part 4. I'm like, wait, what? That was literally me, right?
Yeah, I think we skimmed over it because I was like, I was saying like people always bring this up as like, oh, stand powers are broken because one of them gets a lucky shot and shoots Jotaro in that part, and people are like, oh, Jotaro can beat Dio, but that means if this rat can shoot Jotaro, does that mean the rat's like stronger than Dio? And it's like, no. It's like,
yeah, that's what I remember like seeing those questions on the internet. I'm like, huh? I was like, me. I'm like, what?
No, it's just like go away. It's like, go away. Crazy. But yeah, like, looking back to part 5, it felt like, spoilers, they end up finding the daughter of the boss, who's called Trish. Yeah,
Trish Uno, I believe?
Yeah, Yeah. Basically, once they get to her, it slows down. Like, you get a lot... See, this is the kind of thing. Like, you get a lot of really interesting fights. Like, you get Narancia versus the person who shrinks people.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
That is a really cool fight to see him like face off against this guy who nearly kills him by like shrinking him and putting him in with like
though, like Narancia, I thought he was done for that episode. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a really horrible episode. Like no, it's really good. It's really creative the way they like have to get around things, and that is a point I'll give it. There's a lot of creativity in this part, but then again. Oh, good. Then again, we get Iceman. We also get Mirror Man as well. You might be wondering why I'm listing off like Mega Man villains. No, these are that's not their names, but that is basically the powers. There's like there's a group of guys, there's a guy who like can trap you in a mirror universe or something, and it like disconnects your stand, and it's... that's when Fugo like gets his chance to shine. His only chance to shine, because that is the only time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not the only time he ever fights?
Yeah, I think so. Like Fugo literally only had one fight in the whole series, that from what I remember.
Yeah.
The thing is with his stand power, guys, it's pretty OP.
Yeah.
But what I did like this is like the artist in me speaking about like how Fugo is as a character. What I like about it is that on the outside, Fugo's, he seems super calm, very intelligent dude. They did go dive into his backstory and how he was like an actual genius and all that. But at the same time, due to the fact that he had to keep up that rep, I believe, Satsu, correct me if I'm wrong, the stress got to him, and it developed a darker side to him that's a lot more angry and a lot more unstable, right? So that's the thing.
So this is quite an interesting thing, because it's something that Araki didn't add into the manga, but he did tell like the anime production team that he wanted included. So his backstory is, as you were saying, because he's a child genius, he gets like introduced into like this prestigious like university, but they say something about like one of the professors tries to abuse him, so he essentially kicks the shit out of him, which understandably, and and then of course it gets like sent to like I don't even know, I think he just gets obviously expelled, and his life goes downhill from there.
Pretty much.
I mean, that is quite an interesting thing, because they do focus like a lot on the characters' backstories. Like there's whole like sections that they just flash back to, which which I don't know if many of the other parts had scenes like that.
No, not
Like,
really.
for
Like
the...
now I think about it, like they did filler right in a way.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
They did like one or two episodes, fine, but like do
Yeah.
pull what Naruto and like Dragon Ball Z did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like one thing that I did forget to add as well, and I did not know that that was not in the manga, so that's interesting. And his power, Purple Haze, guys, represents that anger, that stress, you know, that instability, and like it's so cool seeing it in action. You know what I mean? For that reason, because like you wouldn't expect that from Fugo, and then like, but even before that, Satsu, the little detail that I noticed was like when they were driving to the place, right? And then Giorno accidentally tells him to tells him to take a wrong turn, accidentally, right? And then he fucking stops the car and gets like mad at Giorno for a split second. He's like, I told you to fucking pay attention. And he's like, okay, sorry. Where do we go again? Like, you kind of like see it for a split second and you're like, is he okay? You know what I mean? That's really what I thought when I saw that, right? Like, he legitimately freaks out at Giorno for that small mistake, right? When you see him in action, like, whew, I thought that shit was like amazing in my opinion. I don't know how you felt about Purple Haze as a stand, Satsu.
I mean, it was terrifying. Like,
it was a terrifying stand. It really was.
It's basically a stand that gives off like a virus, isn't it, or something?
Yeah,
or like
actually though,
a literal purple haze comes out of him. But he's also one of the things I thought was interesting as well is he's quite a neat freak as well.
He's very OCD.
Like, the stand kind of is like this feral monster that oozes this, like, this, like, again, purple haze. But at the same time, it's like he starts, like, drooling, and as soon as he gets, like, drool on his leg, he starts, like, rubbing it, incessantly, like, oh no, I've got to get it off kind of thing. Which I thought was quite cool. I thought it was cool that the stands now are getting a bit more development, almost. Which,
for sure. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like, it's interesting the way they're taking the stands and whether or not like that carries over to like part 6 and 7 and everything. Not too sure, but it is interesting to see. And I thought that this is definitely Fugo's episode. And it's his only episode. Spoilers again, but it literally is. Like, after that, I do not really remember. I don't think because his stand is so volatile that it literally affects everyone, including
he can't really control it. That's the problem, right? So
does Giorno not get poisoned by it, or am I remembering that wrong?
Someone does. I don't remember if it was Giorno or not. Anyone in the comments, feel free to correct us on that. But I believe someone does get poisoned. It might have been Giorno, because I know that Abakio was put out of commission by the guy that they were fighting for a bit. It might have been Giorno. You might be right. Because it was just those three, I believe, and Narancia was doing something else.
Yeah,
and I think Bruno was Naranka and Bruno were guarding Trish, I think, at like the little safe house, I believe. Okay, that's what happened. Yeah, it might have been Giorno.
Yeah, because I think this episode takes place after Narancha fought the. In fact, no, it might have been before. But yeah, no, you're right.
It might have been before.
They do split off. Yeah, you're right. They do kind of split off. So it's like the 3 of them go to the ruins to try and find like what they need to escort Trish. But I think as soon as they kind of get attacked a couple of times, they're like, yeah, this place isn't ssafe. Let's swiggity swooty out of here and just go. Yeah, it eventually leads to like, and again, I know I keep saying this, like I don't want to undersell this part, but you ever seen Planes, Trains and Automobiles?
Like the show?
Yeah, no, like the film.
No, I haven't. But I think I kind of get what you're trying to get.
I just
get at, right?
Yeah, like just the general idea of it's like, oh no, we have to escort Trish to the boss. It's like, let's take a train. Oh no, we can't take, like a bit like part 3. It's actually, like, thinking back to what you were saying there, it is kind of scary how many parallels there are in some respects. Like the villain of the week, you've also got the different modes of travel. Like they go on a train, they go on not a bus, but like a car and everything. And the train, I think that's nearly the final straw for them, where basically, and bear with me when I explain this, but they take a turtle on a train and then they hide inside the turtle because
yes, oh my god, the turtle.
I have got no idea how that works. It's basically a turtle, but it's got like a key inside of it, or not inside of it, but on top of its shell. Why? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember the reason. Maybe it's explained, so if anyone out there, like, feel free to let me know. But yeah, or I might go back and I'll be like, that makes so much sense. But off the top of my head, I'm like, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I think it is like the boss gave them that to, basically get to him. And then of course you get introduced to the the Wonder Twins. The guy with the, like, he's got a fishing rod to basically...
they were twins, you're right. I was like, there was something up with them. I'm like, oh yeah, They're
Where are
twins.
they?
Keep going.
Were they twins? Like, I know one of
Were
them
they?
was
Or
like
they were
huge.
like they
Oh
were
no!
like brothers. Were
Oh,
they
they were
brothers?
definitely. I think they were brothers. Well, they were definitely close anyway. Because
They were.
there's one who, uses like the the omnipresent fishing rod that just goes through everything, and then you've got the other one who his stand is like terrifying. His is kind
It
of
is.
similar to purple haze almost in the sense it's not a disease, but it's like it makes people really old. Like
Yes, it ages people. That's
yeah.
what the other one was. I'm like, oh, the
Yeah.
aging stand.
And
Yeah.
it's like the only way they can defend themselves is if they're very cold. So they're getting like ice cubes and putting it over themselves, and that's kind of reversing it. But because obviously ice cubes are going to melt, like it's a sense of desperation that it gives it. And I just thought that was really interesting. A really cool stand. And I have to admit, it's something that I think this part does really well. Like, obviously, you know, the heroes are going to win, but the heroes never really... Like, it's not like part 3 where you knew Jotaro was just going to punch the guy really hard and that was going to be it.
Yeah.
Like...
Or punch them a few times.
Yeah, like for the most part, Giorno isn't in most of these fights. Like sometimes he is. Like in this particular one, he's not, and it ends up falling to Bruno to fight these guys. And of course, you know, you get the famous Arrivederci scene with Bruno. And yeah, you get Mista's. Like I love Mista as a character, and I love his stand. So sorry,
His stand's great.
Yeah, to quickly explain, his stand is called Sex Pistols, I think. And he's basically got a magnum with like 6 shots, and every time he shoots a bullet, he's got like a tiny bullet person that stands on top of it. I do not like them. I like the idea of them, but I think the voices.
Oh, you're talking about like the bullets? Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, they have a very high pitch, like Mista!
Yeah, let's still fuck people up. That's essentially what's going on.
Essentially, like every
Yeah.
time they came on screen, I was just like, oh, like I like the idea of them, but
I do.
It's so hard to have like a very heart wrenching scene. You know, when you've got like this tiny bullet anime person going like, Mista, no, and you're like, oh. Jesus.
It's like, God damn it, guys.
God.
I know what you mean, but
Yeah,
please.
but they keep going on and on,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, please go away. But Mista gets like beaten up so many times. Like I feel as if he deserves a coffee at the end of the series because the amount of times he
does, man.
This is another thing that I get annoyed at. Just the fact that there's a lot of like fake outs. You know what? Like not fake out deaths, but fake out. This guy's been beaten to a bloody pulp. Off the top of my head, like Mista gets like impaled by the ice guy.
Oh yeah.
He gets nearly killed. He nearly like gets the fishing rod guy, but I think in the last minute he ends up like attacked by like another guy, and that like puts him off and everything. But 9 times out of 10 he ends up, or sorry, should I say 4 times out of 10? Haha. But it ends up it's like either Giorno that has to fix it, or you know, it's just anybody else. And a lot of people, is it weird? It's like, you know, it's like, do you remember that scene from Monty Python? It's like it's the Black Knight where it's like he keeps getting these limbs chopped off, and he's like, oh, it's only a scratch. Like that's how I feel about the like damage and injuries in this show. It's like they get
part
cut.
5,
They get cut open, they get, you know, like beaten to death or near death, and it's like, it's fine, I'll just sleep it off inside the turtle, and it's like, what?
I know, right? Like, jeez.
How? Oh, just, you know, that's JoJo for you. Like, by part 5, if you're, well, I don't know, is it a good or bad thing, like, to still be weirded out by JoJo by part 5?
No, I don't think so. Because even like, while watching part 5, dude, like, I'm like, I know JoJo's weird, but what the fuck? There's definitely some scenes, right? Like, that's how I felt about certain scenes. Like, it's weird, but there's definitely scenes that even, you know, a weirdo like myself, I'm like, the hell?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, one of the worst ones, I have to say, and I don't know how you feel about this, but there's another, immediately the episode after, there is another member of the mystery gang. Like, I'm going to call them the mystery gang because,
I'm like, I just thought of that. I'm like, oh, true.
They're honestly, they just appear just to get beaten up and then thrown to the side. Because you know, like the big bad is on his way, but you get a guy who, he basically uses his stand to, I think, impregnate a woman or something.
Oh my god, I forgot about him too. Yeah, that was a really weird stand.
Yeah, like he puts
and like he can like customize the baby. Could he like personality traits, powers like from a laptop. It's
Yeah,
really really weird. You know what I mean?
it's horrible. Like, I really did not like. I
I
don't know.
was
Did you feel
confused
the
by
same?
that one.
Yeah. Like, I was
Yeah, I
like,
was just like, huh?
what the hell is that? And then he ends up like blowing them up because he transforms into like a bicycle, or no, he doesn't. Sorry, I think, is it not Giorno? I can't even remember now. It's like he ends up like the stand ends up blowing up in like a really gruesome way, but it's like, what even is a stand? Just,
Right? It's so.
there's no real reason for it.
And then they defeated the user because Giorno left like snakes somewhere, and then they bit him and then poisoned him, and that's
Oh
how the user
yeah.
died. That's how he ends up dying, and then the ice guy comes through because he's just like this fucking useless piece of shit. That's all he thought.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because then Mister's just like, oh, don't worry, now it's my time to shine. And then 2 seconds later, spoilers, he did not cope well.
No.
And then eventually, like, I don't think there's much more between that and them actually meeting the boss, is there?
Yeah, and like so they get to I think it was a church where they decide to meet the boss because the boss was like, hey,
Yeah.
so just bring my daughter to this church and then you're done. Like
Yeah.
then you could just do whatever you want, right? Like and then I guess we'll zoom to that if you'd like, Satsu.
Yeah,
'Cause
no, go for it.
I was gonna say like the ice guy literally he gave them a run for their money. He was an interesting stand user. That was all I'm gonna say. He was close to defeating them, like
Oh,
very
yeah.
close. You know what I mean? Yeah, like he was a tough opponent, right? Definitely the strongest of the mystery gang.
Is that? I love how that's a thing now, the mystery guy. Is that, like, come to think of it, is that not Giorno's first, like, Muda scene?
I think so. Yeah.
Muda? So, yeah, it's so good. So, sorry, just to quickly explain, it's when Giorno starts, you know, basically doing what Star Platinum in the past series and Crazy Diamond in Part 4, where they punch their enemies and they basically say, like, a phrase over and over again. So, for, you know, Star Platinum, it was Ora Ora. For, so good. For Crazy Diamond, it was Dora Dora, which
Yeah.
not as cool, I have to say, but
Not as
still.
cool. It definitely isn't.
And then, of course, for Dio, you had the Muda, Muda, Muda. And for Giorno, because he is, of course, Dio's son, yeah, he uses the Muda. But it's so satisfying whenever you see him doing a beatdown, because, and this
Yeah.
is something I'm actually surprised we waited so long to mention, the soundtrack. This has...
Right. Such a good song.
This is honestly one of the best, like, soundtracks in the series, I would say. But there is one particular song called, basically it's translated to Golden Wind, and it is...
Yeah. That's
Exactly. Sorry. I was like, no,
Just
continue. But
it.
yeah, it's so good. Like, that's the thing though, it's like, if people haven't watched this part, then they'll definitely, in some form or another, they'll definitely have heard of the song, like through memes or, you know, things like that. It's just such an iconic song. Well, it is now, at least in internet culture, it definitely is.
Oh
Because
yeah, it was.
it's
Still is,
basically like the, why do I hear boss music? You know, it's like, and yeah, it's just so good. But sorry, I just wanted to point that out because it is.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
Oh.
That's part of the part 5 discussion.
Oh, it is so good.
It's such a good song.
But speaking of good songs, actually, we get like a really haunting track when we meet the boss.
Yeah.
And it's this very like dark and kind of brooding. Oh, it is
Very final boss worthy, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
absolutely. It's like, I mean, I haven't played Final Fantasy, but I assume that's what it's like.
Yeah, no, you're right. Honestly, like I picture like someone like Sephiroth having that theme if he didn't already had his own epic theme, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So yeah.
It's honestly so good. Like, that whole scene where Bruno basically goes in alone with Trish and he ends up holding her hand, quite literally, because he turns around and then 2 seconds later he's like, oh, there's your hand. Ah! It's just
Yeah,
like,
pretty
oh,
much,
no.
right? Like I remember Trish saying like, I don't know my dad, so I don't even know if I want to do this, right? And
Yeah.
then Bruno's like, and then at that point, you know, Bruno's questioning is like, okay, I have a sense of duty to uphold because I'm part of this mafia, but is it the right thing to do to give this girl to someone she's never met in her entire life? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like, she's clearly not okay with it, right?
Yeah.
So then, you know, he's thinking there, and then while he's thinking, that scene happens, you know what I mean? And then he realized, like, okay, you know what? No, it wasn't the right thing to do after seeing that, right?
But it's a bit too little too late.
Yeah, it was like way too late, right?
Where, yeah, he tries to fight against the boss for the very first time. And you don't
Mhm.
really see much of it. So, the boss's stand is called King Crimson, which, if you're familiar with the memes, you'll probably know about this guy. But, yeah, King Crimson is a very particular stand.
It's an interesting, yeah.
Yeah. It basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't feel as if there's a wrong answer for King Crimson. But it's like, does it not like look to the future and then erase like a part of time?
Yeah,
So
something like that, right? Like, or
yeah,
it like jumps forward a bit into the future, and then he does what he has to do, and then
yeah. So for
comes
example,
back, and then like, huh? Right?
yeah. So, for example, Bruno goes to outmaneuver the boss and he goes round like a pillar and goes to like punch him, which,
Yeah.
if he didn't have that stand, he would be done for. But
Oh yeah.
because he can like see into the future and see that he's going to do that, he like, as you said, like kind of skips forward. Do you know what it reminds me of? It's if Zawardo had a baby with Zahando.
Yeah, actually though. Oh,
You
that would
get
be
King
that is a
Crimson.
terrifying stand. That's literally what King Crimson is. You're right.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It just
Yeah.
basically erases time and jumps him forward. So, of course,
Yeah,
the guy
exactly.
who's, like, fighting against the boss is like, well, wait, how did this happen? Just, I got no idea. And then, yeah, Bruno gets his ass kicked and kind of confusing. Like, he gets killed, but not quite killed. Giorno, like, saves him, but uses his stand to, like, keep him alive or something.
Yeah.
It is really weird what they do with it. And then this is like definitively where like the first part of part 5 ends, and then moves on to the second part where they basically jump on a boat. Yeah, let's go. And Fugo, who again, like I've been ranting on him, and this is the reason, because in this particular scene he's just like, nah, I'm not gonna go with you guys.
I'm good. I'm not gonna die. That's essentially what he says.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not opposing the boss. I don't want to fucking die. That's literally what
Yeah.
he said, right?
And then literally, that's it. Like, you never see him until the very end. And you're like, okay, why are you here? It's like, what is your purpose? But he's not. He doesn't really, other than the Mirror Man scene, he's just there. As I said, as a placeholder, almost. I don't know, I feel as if it's just wasted potential. They build it up as being such an OP stand, and I get it, like, if he used the Purple Haze against, like, King Crimson, maybe he would have won, but
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, it almost seems as
Big
if...
maybe though.
Yeah, a
That's a big
huge
maybe,
maybe, yeah.
Because the King Crimson stand is no joke. Like, it's really strong.
Oh, it's like so OP. Like, although, see at this stage, it's starting to become commonplace for like the big bads in these parts to be able to stop time. Like, I mean, part 1 and 2, that was all about like punching the bad guy as hard as possible. Just punching them as hard as possible, and then they would go down. Part 3 is, of course, Zawardo with Dio, which would make a great like album name. Can I just say Zawardo with Dio?
Oh yeah.
Part 4, of course, you've got Killer Queen, which, although blows stuff up, it eventually gets like the time traveling thing. And now we've got part 5 where we've got another time user, and you're just kind of like, okay.
Because that's the thing. What I've been noticing since part 3, Satsu, the running thing with the villain's stand powers is time. Like the running thing. You see, you can stop time with Zawardo. You can stop. You can essentially go with Killer Queen. Like how would you describe Bites the Dust? It's like putting you in a time loop by the looks of it, right?
It's if Groundhog Day was a stand.
Yeah, like putting you in a time loop. Pretty
Yeah,
much,
basically. Yeah, if
and
it
then this
tri-
one's, and then yeah, if
Oh, sorry.
like you first, but like yeah, like it's putting you in a time loop, and that's up to the Dan user to like end it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And
Then yeah, King Crimson jumps forward in time and messes things up, and then comes back and be like, "Ha!" Pretty much.
ta-da! Honestly. Give him a pair
Yeah.
of jazz hands and that would just be the ultimate troll. Just like,
Actually,
ta-da.
though.
It is I, King Crimson. Or
Yeah.
is it Emperor Crimson in the English dub?
I think it was yeah, it might be Emperor
something.
Crimson in the English dub, but
Yeah.
I know him as King Crimson.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
no, same. I mean, I was just trying to think, because although this is something I don't think we have touched on, just mainly the copyright, that because like a lot of the characters and like their stand powers are named after like songs and
rock bands,
albums and rock bands, yeah. And part 5 I think was the worst hit. Like, you've heard me refer to like Shining Diamond or Crazy Diamond and Diamond is Unbreakable as like Crazy Diamond, Shining Diamond, because of the like copyright. But I mean, everybody, or nearly everyone in this part, like, gets a different name. So instead of King Crimson, you've got Emperor Crimson. Instead of Golden Wind, it's Is it Golden Experience instead of Golden Wind, or is it vice versa?
I think it was. I think it was a Golden Win in the English dub. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then, of course, I think the most egregious one is instead of Sticky Fingers, you have Zipperman, which you
Yeah, I'm
referred
just like,
to.
that one's like completely out of left field. You know what I mean? Everything else, there's like common denominators, but then that one, you're like, oh, pretty much, right? You're like, okay.
Can you imagine if that was like Dio's power? And,
Superman,
everyone's just like, what does his power do? We don't know. We don't know what the Zipperman does,
Zazipa.
Zipper. Zip. It's like, oh, no.
Oh, okay. Bye. Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, right. Yeah, rain check for a better villain.
Imagine.
Nah, I'm kidding. It's not that bad. Well, kind of.
Not that bad. Could be worse. You know?
It definitely could be worse.
Oh, yeah.
But then that leads to the second part, which is like it basically is the Traitor's Requiem part. And the reason I call it that is because that's the name of the theme that goes along. Can I just point out, this is one of the worst, like, it's a good song, but it's probably one of the worst openings in JoJo.
Yeah, I'm not super into it either. I thought I was the only one. I'm like,
yeah,
that one's okay, I guess. You know what I mean? Everything else got me pretty hyped up.
It's full of spoilers.
It is.
Which is what everyone keeps saying, don't watch it, just skip it, because the song's great, and it's very similar to, what's the name of the third? It's like the second theme for part 3.
End of the World.
End of the World, that's it.
Yeah. It's very much like that, yeah.
It's a bit like that, because they've got two versions of it. They've got like the normal one, which is like the rock, song, and then they've got the second part, which is the villain coming in, like, at the very end, and then, like, doing their bit and everything. It's really cool. I don't know why they did it. Like, I can't sit here and be like, I hope someone got fired for that blunder. Like, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But it's just, like, a bunch of, like, clips of the previous part and, like, what's to come, and it's, like, mashed together. It's like, I could do that. Pay me, David Productions. I can do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's something you wouldn't expect. Like, part 1 and 2, they're fantastic openings. Like, from the visuals to, the songs and everything. Part 3 and 4 are great as well. But yeah, I just felt as if this was a bit lackluster. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks that, by the way. Like, I'm glad you think as well, because...
No, yeah. I was just like, there was something off about that opening, and, I'm like, I wasn't super into it. I would actually skip it, so...
Yeah. It's a thing. Which I feel bad saying that, because a lot of work's probably going into it, but I'm like, yeah, it's definitely not the strongest.
No, definitely not.
Speaking of not the strongest, nah, I'm only kidding. What do you think overall, like, before we get into the, like, very end with, with the, like, finale at the Colosseum and everything, what were your initial impressions of this part up until that moment? Yeah.
I thought it did remind me a lot of, like, part 3 due to the fact that they did go with the Monster of the Week sort of thing. But other than that, when it comes to battle creativity, like, the battle scenes were fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Super creative, super intense. Characters were fantastic as well. But other than that, it still sort of felt, too similar to part 3 in the sense that it was, like, favorite Monster of the Week, right? So I guess out of 10, I would give it, like, a 7.
No, I'd agree with that. It's definitely a lot more, or not a lot more, but it's very creative, which is good. And it is good that they do develop the characters a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are just some things that kind of hold it back. I don't know, like, again, maybe it's just because I'm very biased. Because I'm like, I love part 4. I'm a part 4 fan. But
part 4 fan, I agree.
Because it's just so good. And then part 5, it is weird because it's like, it's not so much it's gonna end the world if they don't stop the boss, but at the same time, it's like, it's not as small as localizing it to a town. It's like the whole of Italy, rather than, just like one small town in Japan, or, one household that got burned down in England. I see you, Jonathan fans. But it's an interesting start, but it definitely continues with that Monster of the Week theme. I would definitely agree with that, where, I mean, as we said, we get just generic people. Like, you get the people who you can't lie or something, and actually, what is really funny, and my friend is going to, like, probably, like, wonder why the hell I'm mentioning this on, well, not on stream, but on this podcast. When I was in school, I had a friend, and we were coming up with like really stupid movie monsters. And one of the things we came up with was a thing called puddlefish. And basically, yeah, like I've never actually spoken about this, I don't think, or if I have, it's been in passing. But it was this idea we had where it's like, imagine if, you know, you're just drinking water, and then all of a sudden, like, because it's just a cup of water, like just a random fish pops out of it. Yeah. It was just like an ongoing joke, and it went on from there. The reason, like, I brought that up, because you might be wondering why the hell am I bringing that up, is because that's exactly what one of the stand powers is.
It kind of was the puddlefish.
It's like just this fish that comes out of like water and bites Narancha's like tongue or something, and then it's like it means that he can. He basically
can't speak, or he speaks like the opposite thing.
Yeah, he says like the opposite thing of what he means.
What he wants to say.
Yeah, so it's like instead of saying look up, he'll say look down or something. But that was just really weird.
It was a weird stand, but like the way they used it, I'm like, it's a pretty solid stand in the sense that like you want to mess up the enemy for sure. That'll definitely do it. You know what I mean?
I mean, eventually, like rinse and repeat, they defeat the two guys who are coming after them, and it's like, okay, move on. Let's never speak of this again. Essentially, after that, we get introduced to Doppio, who is how do we approach Doppio?
I would say, so I'm trying to compare him to like another anime villain that I might know of. Satsu, have you ever watched Elfen Lied?
I have heard of it. Yeah. Oh, I've heard
like,
of it, yeah.
Okay, so say if the boss is Lucy, the other half, Doppio would be New, because it's like a split personality, you know what I mean? Or like two different personalities. So Doppio, spoiler alert, is basically the boss's other personality, except he's like the more friendly kind of like airheaded one. Yeah. It's interesting to see, you know what I mean? And then the boss is like super duper cold and calculating and just straight up evil, you know what I mean? So yeah, Doppio is he's an interesting character. He is.
It's a very, see, this is the thing, it's a very interesting dynamic, but it must make it awkward in business meetings when it's like he rocks around and it's Doppio, and then it's oh shit, I forgot to change it to the boss.
I was like, oh, my bad, guys, hi, pretty much.
Yeah. But that's the weird thing, because like, I don't know how you feel about this, but like, see when they revealed the boss like halfway through the show, how did you feel about that? Like, did you think, oh, cool, it's the boss? Or were you just kind of like...
How they did the reveal, it was kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember right when at the scene, the scene where Bruno starts fighting the boss, you don't really see him. You see his eyes, right?
Yeah.
Because, it's shrouded in darkness in there. But then there was, I forgot what it was, but like, there was something that gave... Oh, here's the thing. So the fact that Trish's hair is pink sort of gave it away in the sense that like, oh, assuming that she got her hair color from her dad, the boss's hair is also pink, right? And then Doppio comes in randomly, and you definitely see that there's something off with him. Something, because they're giving a lot of screen time to him. I thought that the reveal was pretty interesting, right? Nothing that I haven't seen before, but it was interesting how they approached it, right? So I guess Doppio's more of the, in a way, like the face of the mafia, and then the boss is more of just like the head of the snake, right? So I thought the reveal was okay, because they did want to try something. They clearly did want to try something new with this JoJo villain, and I think it was absolutely fine. What about you, Satsu?
I do think it's an interesting approach to it, because usually the villains are very transparent with the way they act. Like, don't get me wrong, like Kira was very, like he had a face for every occasion, but at the same time he's like goals were clearly established. Same with Dio. Dio was unapologetically A, fabulous, and B, just like a monster.
Be the best, be a god, be a who cares, take what's yours, that was
exactly
what it was,
and even the Power Men were the Power Men, whereas in this it almost sets it up as like a very tragic story where because of this like split personality, he kills his mum, he burns down I think it's the orphanage he comes from, or he burns down something anyway. Jonathan fans rejoice.
Yeah, like, oh, it's a reference to part
one. Go back. It's fired a JoJo reference. Yes. I remember, watching that documentary on the early days of man when they first they first found fire.
They invented fire, and then one of them said goodbye JoJo. Yeah, totally.
And the other one said JoJo reference.
JoJo reference.
JoJo. What JoJo?
Oh my god.
God. Oh yes, that was a great day for mankind, I think.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's like a very tragic villain compared
It is.
to what we've seen already. It's just a shame that, I don't know, I feel as if maybe they didn't get enough time to develop it, because half of
Yeah.
the time is
Agreed.
him acting like an absolute idiot. Like, oh, not an idiot, sorry, that's unfair to say, but like very deranged, where
Yeah.
he'll pick up a random object and he'll do the
Yeah, like a phone
like,
call. Yeah,
yeah, as if he's like on the phone, whereas it's all in his head, you know, that he's
Yeah.
talking to his boss. Well, the boss, like his split
The boss,
personality. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but I think
It
the
is.
scene that kind of capitalizes on that is when they come face to face with another stand user who is absolutely horrible. And this is the thing,
Yeah.
this is like what I meant earlier when I said this is like a lot more gruesome. This stand user, I think you'll know who I'm talking about when
Yeah,
Doppio fights the zinc man.
Iron guy. Yeah, the zinc guy,
Iron.
the iron guy who can
Yeah.
basically turn your blood into metal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's got like razors and he's throw it. And, oh, it's
Yep,
just
he's throwing up razors, throwing up forks at one point, I don't know.
it's just some of it. I'm just like, really, this is just a bit much. But you know,
Yeah,
again,
it's
it's
like,
JoJo.
geez, yeah, it is JoJo.
Like it's always over the top and kind of a bit extra, but it's a bit extra when you're throwing up razor blades, you know. Satsu's fun fact of the day. Like eventually he defeats him because he lets. In fact, no, I don't think he does let the boss out. I think the boss forces him, or sorry, the boss forces his way out, and it's just like, yeah, sorry, Doppio, you did well, but I'm gonna wreck this guy's shit. And like he puts up a good fight. In fact,
He
no,
does.
that's it, because basically at the same time, Narancia and Co are. I can't believe I'm saying that as if Narancia's like the head of the group. He's really not. But,
He's not.
he's not. Because it's like Narancia and Bruno are searching for. Basically, they're searching for like.
Oh, the
enemies.
boss's identity.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they actually get a tip off that the boss used to visit. So it's like a kind of seaside town that's very nice, but it's like a seaside town that they go to. Yeah, they hear, or rather they sense, or I can't remember, but they run off anyway. And Narancia's stand like picks up a heat signature, but he only picks up one heat signature because I think at that point Doppio has got like iron poisoning or something. He's got like poisoning in his blood, so it's not being picked up by Narancia's stand, and Narancia just like totally Robocops Doppio's assailant and kills him right out. So Doppio manages to escape. I can't remember how he gets his like blood back and everything, but he manages to escape, and then it's one of the tragic scenes where Abakio is like, he's using his stand Moody Blues.
Rewind time, yeah.
So his stand is quite cool. Do you want to explain what his stand?
So yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Basically, how his stand works is that he goes. It's very good if you want to be a detective. It is excellent if you want to be a detective, which he was in a previous life. So how it works, guys, is that, you know, he goes to a certain place, he summons his stand, and then he tells his stand, okay, what happened here on this day at this time, right? And then, you know, it'll rewind as fast as it gets. Like, it's a pretty fast rewind, but the point where we are at right now, like, he has to go back, like, what, 50 years, potentially 40 years about, like, what happened? Something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it was going to take a minute, right? You know, Moody Blues is fast, but not that fast, right?
Yeah.
Sadly. And then, you know, as, you know, time is rewinding, you know, Abakio starts seeing what went down. Like, it literally, like, sort of plays like a short film of what went down in this area that he's, like, trying to find, you know, clues to. So it's a really, really good stand for, like, you know, getting info and, you know, finding things out that happened years ago. Right, so it was very good. It's a really good stand if you want to be like a cop, like actually, or a detective. So yeah, that's how Moody Blues works, guys, in a nutshell.
And I mean, again, that kind of leads into his personality, doesn't it? Because it's revealed, like, I can't remember if it's that episode or if it's earlier, that it reveals that the reason he's so moody is because, oh, the puns keep coming, is because he was initially a police officer who tried to stop a robber. I think it's a robber, and the robber ended up shooting his like work colleague because he didn't take the shot, and ever since then he's just, sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but it's just the fact that he went from a relatively, I don't want to say a normal guy, but you know, it's like he had a very short haircut and everything, and other than like the purple hair and everything, he was relatively normal, but he went from like
a normal dude.
Yeah, he went from a normal dude. If you bought Sep from Wish.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
The long jacket that's like purple. Again, like no dissing to like both of those characters, but you know, it's like the long hair, bright purple lipstick and things, and it's like, well, it's very colourful. It's a very colourful trench coat, and unfortunately, like in that scene, he ends up passing away, which I think was really, it was like done
Oh,
really
that took me
well.
by surprise, and
Yeah,
yeah,
same.
it was very well done.
Because he's like chatting to his like old work colleague, and I have to admit that did get me. I was like, oh no, because I
Yeah,
thought
you're like,
something.
oh fuck,
Yeah,
pretty
because
much.
you're
Like,
like,
no, 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 no. Pretty
you're
much.
like, something's not right here. And you could kind of tell something was going to happen because it's like, in the background, there's kids playing, and the back of you is just like, oh, here's your ball, you scamps. And you know, you're
Yeah.
like, something's going to happen here. And then
Oh
when
yeah.
he's talking to his old friend, and you're like, yeah.
I was like, this is it, boys. Fuck, pretty
And
much.
yeah, that's like kind of the first major death, I think, of the
Yeah,
group,
it was.
which is devastating, but
It was really sad because I was
yeah.
particularly sad because I was an Abakio fan.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? That was like how I felt.
yeah, and it's like kind of them having to limp away and use like what they've learned to basically continue their mission, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking. But Abakio came in clutch, and I think he wrote what happened like in code like somewhere before he died, right?
Is it not
Because
like
he's
a
the one who was
face
able to see it.
print or something?
It was a face print. That's what it
Yeah,
was, right?
yeah,
And he's like, go over here or something like that,
yeah.
right? And then they see the face print of the boss, of like what he really looks like, right? Yeah, and then they're trying to find out where this boss is, and they get a call from a certain someone who wants to help them out. If you'd like to go into that, Satsu.
Oh, yes, indeed,
Yeah.
I would. So, again, spoilers. I know we said spoilers throughout,
Yeah.
but this is definitely like the major spoiler where they essentially get a call from a very familiar face from part
Yep.
3. That, of course,
Yep.
being Polnareff. Now, I'm going to be honest, even though I am not the biggest Part 3 fan, I do like Polnareff. I think
I like him too, yeah.
he is one of the highlights. Like, initially I was like, oh, I don't know about this guy, but, with his, like, random plebeian and wavy and things like that, it's just...
Best himbo character ever.
Yeah.
He's
But
such a
then-
huge himbo, and I love it.
See, the thing is, like, in this part, they really nerf him. At least, well,
They did.
we'll get to what happens, but or rather, him and Jotaro ended up basically splitting off. So I think Jotaro went to Japan, I think.
He went back home, yeah.
Yeah, and Polnareff went to Italy, which is quite a cool idea. So the reason they did that was because of what was established in Part 4 with the stand arrows. So basically the stand arrows, just a quick recap, is if you stab someone with them, this arrow decides whether or not you're worthy.
You're worthy. Yeah, for
So
a stand.
it depends whether or not you're going to die or you're going to get like a weird astral projection following you for the rest of your life. Yeah, it's a really cool idea to think, okay, it's no longer just as random or it's heritage, which it is heritage. In fact, no, it isn't, but you know what, I won't go into that, but yeah, it's like if you get stabbed by this arrow, then yeah, you're going to get stand. So Polnareff goes to Italy to try and stop, well, it's not Doppio, it's a person called Diavolo, who, spoilers, that is the boss, but
Yep.
he gets his shit kicked in, so much so that Polnareff is in a wheelchair now, and
Yeah.
it's just so sad to see, because it's like someone who was so like fun and energetic is now
Energetic
like
and
broke.
happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, he's just like broken and reserved, and he's just
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a little heartbreaking him seeing him that way. I'm not gonna lie, I'm just
Yeah.
like, this is Polnareff now. Damn, what happened? Right?
Yeah.
That's like how I felt.
yeah, whereas sorry, I'm not laughing at like what happens to him, but I'm just laughing at the comparison of like, Polnareff sitting there very moody, just like, I hope Jotaro got on well. And Jotaro's like dancing the Morio singing Crazy Noisy Bees.
Oh my god, that's so sad.
It's just like, I hope Polnareff is having as good a time as I am.
I'm like,
Oh,
that's what I mean. I'm like, no.
Oh.
Poor Polnareff, man. Honestly,
Yeah,
got done
honestly.
pretty dirty.
He really did. Not as dirty as Joseph in Part 4, but I've already
No,
ranted about
definitely
that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, he does get done dirty, which is a shame. But again, it goes back to that formula of monster of the week, where it's like, oh, we're gonna fight this guy, we're gonna fight
One guy with like underground powers, at
Yeah.
one point.
I
Yeah.
have to admit, those are the only two. So, like, the penultimate fight before, maybe it's just because I'm biased about a certain scene, but
Yeah.
there's one, basically, there's a duo who it's established that one of them, how to put this, like, one of them is like a doctor who basically operated on people very unethically. and the other one is like one of his subjects, which is really tragic and weird. His subject digs underground while the doctor guy creates like, moss that kills people or something like that, and like disintegrates their body. It is disgusting. It's like, oh
it is,
my god, it is horrible. But
actually, though, like an oh my god moment.
Yeah, it is. It's like if you thought like throwing up razor blades was bad, it's like you see people like physically like disintegrate. It's like, oh no. So it's like a fight, like, you know, they have to fight against these two, and eventually they do. And Bruno has like the upper hand because, you know, he's dead, quote unquote. He's dead, but he's not dead. I still don't get that, but you know, it's like, I'm not the writer.
I remember. I'm not the right guy to go to. He's kind of like he's like the in between like the living and the dead. That's what he is. Not that he's undead. No, he's not a zombie. He's just I guess he's like a I don't know what he is.
Like an Italian Bruce Willis.
Actually, though,
it's like he's not dead, but he's not alive. Yeah, that's a huge spoiler to The Sixth Sense. But you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually though.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but yeah, of course, that battle, like, it is a very intense one, because again, you don't know what's going to happen, but that leads to quite possibly one of the best moments in the entire part, and quite possibly the entire show up until this point, because the majority of the guys, like, other than Bruno, like, Bruno's dealing with the underground guy, and he really puts up a fight, this guy. And again, it's, like, disturbing to see those two characters, like, their relationship, you know, it's like he treats him like a pet and everything, and it's just like, oh, it's horrible. It really is horrible. But that, of course, like, they're all basically bloodied and broken, and that, of course, leads to what possibly is the best part, known as the 7-page muda.
Oh yeah.
Which essentially is apparently it's in the manga, where, it's just Giorno basically, he eventually defeats the doctor guy, and the doctor was like, oh, but you said if I didn't do anything to your friend, you'd release me. And, you know, he turned around and he says...
He's like, fuck you. Essentially.
Yeah, essentially. That sums up. He's just like, fuck you. And then, you know, he, like, has a hissy fit. He's like, oh, you're so mean. And then it basically leads to the best beatdown in the whole, like, history of the show, where he just starts yelling muda, muda, muda all over again. And then it's just so good. Like, I think most JoJo fans have tried to recreate that scene. Like,
it's tough.
It really is. Like, to keep
up...
hard. Like, to keep your breath and everything without going like muda, 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 you know, like, it's really muda.
You have to say it with like such aggression too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You have to just yell it, belt it out.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
And then right when he does the final blow satsu, this little detail, uppercuts him and he lands into a garbage truck, and then the garbage truck just crushes him. I'm like, oh shit, he's calling him garbage. He's taking out the garbage. I like that. That's what I mean. That was actually literally like, I fanboyed at that detail. I'm not gonna lie.
It's so good.
That was fantastic. Yeah.
I love it. I do love it. And then, of course, that leads into the confrontation with basically when they finally meet Polnareff, but then at the same time they're like, hey, we found this guy, and it's Doppio, who turns into Diavolo, and it's like, oh shit.
It's like, it's the boss. Oh no.
Oh god. Scram.
Yeah.
And this leads to one of the probably the weirder parts.
It gets weird from here.
Yeah, like you've probably, like, if you've bared with us for this long, you might be wondering, how can it get any weirder than oiled up muscle men, guys with hand fetishes,
guys who can stop the world, who yell the world at the top of their lungs, you know what I mean?
Yeah, vampires, you know, like, how can it get any weirder? Araki introduces this thing into Stands where it's like Stands 2.0, where Polnareff has got the arrow. I can't remember if he stabs himself by accident or he just...
I think he does,
I think he does. I don't know if he does it on purpose. I think he does it on purpose, but he stabs himself, and then his stand has a mind of its own, where it basically gets a secondary power, and...
Silver Chariot Requiem.
Yeah, which is power. So if you remember from part 3, its power is just to stab people very fast with a rapier.
Yeah.
Whereas in this part, it's like, oh, he looks like something out of Bloodborne, where it's like, oh, I can switch bodies and things like that, or souls.
That's what it made me think of as well.
Yeah, and it is a really cool and, like, creepy stand. So it's like they're running after it because, like, everyone in the vicinity is, like, traded places. So it's like a baby is traded places with its mum. Oh, like an officer is traded places with someone else. You know, like just weird things. But eventually it kind of gets resolved. Yeah, Bruno unzips himself, which is something I never thought I'd say, and basically ends it. I think that's how they resolve that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, by the way, we've got these balls in the back of our head. Zip, bye. And then he, he basically ascends to the skies, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, okay, Bruno. Okay,
yeah, right.
See you later. Bye, Bruno.
Bye, Bruno.
It's like, there is something, Giorno, that I must tell you. I must go now. My planet needs me. Just
rises up. And you're like, you didn't even do anything. Yeah. No, he did something. He did do something.
He did do something, yeah. But even still, it's like, okay, bye, Bruno.
Pretty much.
And yeah, it's just it's a weird resolution. But yeah, essentially they fight over the arrow, and yeah, this is me like really skimming over it. But essentially, I think Diavolo tries to stab himself, but he can't.
Yeah,
like he stabs himself, and he's like, "Oh no, the arrow won't stab me," or some rubbish.
Yeah, it doesn't choose him. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then Giorno stabs himself, and initially it does not take well, and then he eventually evolves into Golden Experience Requiem.
And he also gets longer hair too.
Oh, he does, yeah.
He does, yeah. Like longer. It's like going Super Saiyan essentially.
Yeah, and I have to admit, it's like one of the most chilling like lines where he's like, the boss is like freaking out, going, "What is this?" So basically, the boss punches everybody. Like he murders Narancha.
He the boss. I think the boss completely offs Narancha, like 100%. He does
because he thinks he thinks it's Giorno because of swap bodies, but he stabs Giorno, and then he's like, wait a minute, that's not Narancha.
Yeah, right?
Like, oh, that's not Giorno.
Like,
It's like, shit.
It's like, fuck, wrong guy. God damn it. That was pretty much him.
Please tell me my daughter was in that body. Oh, god damn it.
It's like, that's all he wanted. He wanted to kill Trish, right? That was the main goal, just so that, no one would know who he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a bad time for him. Because,
horrible time.
Yeah, especially when Golden Experience goes from OP to Ultra Instinct OP. My god, he just gets his shit kicked in.
He does.
And it's like one of the best lines where it's like he uses his like foresight. I think I can't even remember the name of it, but it's like his foresight power to see like what he can do to save himself. And he's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to splat, blood in his eyes. I'm going to donut him. I'm going to kaku in him. And it's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to win. And then 2 seconds later, the stand pops up and then you just hear the words, Korewa Requiem da. And he's just like,
pretty much.
Which basically just means this is, it's like, just basically translates as saying, like, this is Requiem. And then he gets his shit kicked in. And it's like, it's beautiful. The beatdowns in this, like, part are beautiful. But then once he defeats him, speaking of Groundhog Day from earlier, Diavolo gets, like, trapped in this horrible, like, honestly, it kind of chilled me. I don't know how you felt about it, but it's like this really chilling moment
where he's in that eternal loop.
Yeah, it's like an eternal loop where he keeps dying. Although I do like the memes from it. Where it's like you'll be watching a video where somebody dies and it's like you see a JoJo fan like, I wonder if Diavolo died this way.
What if?
What if? Yeah.
There's a lot of what if videos.
Oh, really? And it's I don't want to say poor guy because he was like horrible. The way he dies, like technically he doesn't die from Golden Experience, but he gets like huddled into like the river, and he crawls out into this kind of like hole area where all these like homeless people are waiting, and this guy gets really aggressive, and he's not used to being spoken back to, so he's like, who are you? The homeless guy grabs the knife and he stabs him, which is like a very like, it's kind of ironic. He gets stabbed by someone he obviously thinks everyone's beneath him because of his power. Although I did have a giggle. Like, initially you see like the different ways he dies. Like, the first one is him getting like cut open while he's alive. That's horrible. And the next one's like he gets hit by a car. The third one is just a little girl. It's a little girl that comes up to him. It's like, hey there. He's like,
I remember that one too.
I did chuckle at that. I was like, okay, that's funny. But then, of course, after that, I'm going to ask your opinion on this. Like, do you think that, see the very end, where before we actually get a resolution to the story, they have like their own mini flashback episode? Like, what did you think of that?
A mini flashback episode.
So it's like
that one.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of random and not really necessary. I'll be honest, man. Because I'm just like, that was it, right? I'm like, okay, now what? That's literally how I felt, right?
Yeah, because it's like they defeat the big bad guy, and then it's like, God, I really shouldn't make this comparison, but can you imagine the Stardust Crusaders if they bet Dio, and then immediately after they showed like the strength episode?
Oh my god, yeah, that's how I
Come
felt. I'm
back.
like, this could have been else. This could have been literally at the beginning of the show,
Yeah.
and I would have been okay with it, right?
Like, see, this is a weird thing because, again, I was watching like a kind of retrospective video about this, and the guy who was talking about it said the exact, like, a very similar thing of like he wasn't a big fan of it, he didn't get why it was here, and there was a lot of people in the comments saying things like, "Oh, it's all about the themes of fate, and you can like change your fate and all of this," and I thought, okay, on the one hand, sure, thematically. On the other hand, everything's over. Like, do we?
Yeah, that's what I'm right. Like, I didn't think that episode was necessary, man.
No,
Honestly
I'm the
speaking,
same. It was an alright episode, but like, I honestly thought, I was like, is this an OVA? Did I miss something? And then it cuts back to them. It's like a real pace breaker. Because they defeat Diavolo, and then it's like, oh, we've got an extra episode where all the gang's there, including Fugo.
I know, right?
It's like, oh, great.
I was like, Fugo, you're back?
Fugo, you're alive? Yep. I thought you died. Nope. That's it. And then, yeah, it just basically cuts to Giorno being basically the head of the mafia. Which is cool. I must admit, it's like he's got a cool outfit.
Dude, he looked so sick. Oh my god. He has like the long hair, and he has like the mafia look, and then I believe sadly, Mista was the only one who came out alive out of this, and Mista's like pretty much his second he's like in a suit, and he has like a second in command look to him, and I'm like, I love it so much. Oh my god. This is awesome, right?
I mean, does Trish survive?
Yeah, she survives, but I think she just
buggers off.
Lives a normal life. Yeah, like she probably like lives a normal life with the protection of Giorno, obviously, just cause.
Oh
like, you're our friend at this point. You know what? If you need our help, just let us know, right?
Yeah. And
so I'm like, it looked so cool though. I was like, I kind of want like a part 2 of that. I'm not gonna lie, just Giorno as like the mafia head. You know what I mean?
It would have been really cool because it's not exactly a cliffhanger. Like it is, it's a really good ending. Like they just completely end the part on that note, and just that image of him as the head honcho of
new boss. Yeah,
it's nice. Like considering all the shit, as I said at the very beginning, considering all the shit that he went through, it's refreshing.
Well deserved ending, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Like after all the crap they went through, after all the people they dropped, you know what I mean? After all the friends they've lost, like it's a well-deserved ending in my opinion.
Oh, totally. That is essentially the end of part 5. And I know there's like a couple of things we didn't touch on, like Trish finding her stand power, which
oh my god, was it? I think Notorious B.I.G. is what they called it.
Oh, wasn't it? I thought it was
like
Spice
the monster. Oh no, the monster they were fighting.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, that stand is. That stand was terrifying. I don't know if that was just me.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, that was a terrifying stand.
Yeah, like kind of to quickly explain, it's like the blob if your stand user had to die to release it. So it's like at the very beginning they kill this guy who's approaching them, and then that unleashes his stand, which they don't even kill the stand. Like they bury it in the ocean.
Just throw it, in the ocean, and then it became like a sea monster legend or something, right?
Yeah,
that's just like literally how they wrote it off. Like, that makes sense, it's essentially Godzilla by the sounds of it,
Yeah, it's just like, okay, we'll just leave that at the bottom of the ocean and never talk about it again. And yeah, there's just like small things like that, but I mean,
Polnareff also switching bodies with the turtle,
Oh, how the hell did I forget that? Yeah, during the body switch thing, Polnareff doesn't go back to his body. He
doesn't. Poor guy. He's just chilling. Oh, Polnareff's there too, because the turtle is like, I forgot the turtle's there in like the final scene. I'm like, wait a minute, Polnareff? What? That was like,
Polnareff is just like chilling with Giorno, and it's like, what the hell?
It's like you see Giorno with like this new black outfit and like serious look. You see Mista come in with like pretty much the same thing, with a second in command look, and then you see a turtle, which is hilarious.
He's just sitting there like, sup,
he's chilling.
Polnareff, it's like,
I feel like Polnareff would be like the wise old council member, that like if Giorno needs, I was like, what do you think I should do? He'd go to him.
I'm just glad they didn't go the Aladdin route, like Diego.
I'm so glad. Oh my god, yeah. Oh
it's
my
like,
goodness.
Polnareff is now voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. It's like, oh no, please no. I'm not even going to attempt that voice, by the way, so if anyone's listening, you're welcome.
Oh god.
But overall though, in terms of the past JoJo's that we've talked about, how would you rate him?
Out of the 5?
Like out of the 5 so far that we've had.
Dang. He'd probably he'd probably be number 3 for me. Out of like, if I were to place them all, I'd say Joseph's my favorite for sure. Josuke second, and then Giorno the third. I was like, I think Giorno would be number 3, like out of the 5 main JoJos on the anime that I like so far. What about you, man?
See, this is the thing. Like,
He's a great character. I like it. Like, he's a fantastic character.
he is, but I don't see. This is the weird thing. I don't know if you think this as well. But like, do you feel as if he gets overshadowed a lot in this part by the other characters? Like the reason it's like the reason I say it is because it's like usually the JoJo's like in their respective parts are like the central focus and everything, and maybe technically you could say like Josuke isn't really, because like Jotaro's like the one to finish off Kira and everything, but in this it's like maybe it's just because they're focusing on like the backstories of the other characters, but I feel as if like with the Dio thing, don't get me wrong, it's cool, and it's something you brought up I think a couple of episodes ago where you were saying how it's like you can see Jonathan's like really, you know, his like chivalrous side where he's helping the kid at the beginning, he wants to help people, but at the same time you've got like Dio's cunning and things,
the foil, pretty much,
but at the same time it's like that doesn't really come back into it in the second half, which don't get me wrong, like I'm not expecting like Dio to like suddenly appear, although I have
comes up as like
no, although I have seen edits of that and it is pretty neat. It's like it's the same thing though, it's like Dio beats up Diavolo and then he's just like, I must go, my people need me, and he just like disappears and he's like oh no. But
okay, actually after that I have an interesting question for you.
Yeah.
Out of the JoJo villains that we've discussed, where would you rank the boss?
Oh, out of all 5 parts?
Yeah, like who is the best villain for you out of all 5 parts? Where would you put the boss?
Oh, good question.
I liked him because he was so different compared to the rest, right?
I thought he was interesting, but
he was an interesting villain, yeah.
I don't know. I would probably rate him like out of 5, maybe like 3 or 4, maybe. The reason I say this is like Kira definitely, like I'm basically shrimping over Kira. Let's face it. Like, we both agree.
He's a great villain. I don't blame you, dude. He's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's because I would say Kira, then maybe Dio. Like maybe it's just the reason is because like there's so many good villains in this series.
There are.
I mean, technically, Dio is like part 1 and 3, so it's like if I like took like part 1 Dio, I think part 1 Dio maybe is the weakest. Well, no, no, okay, that's maybe not fair. Like, you see, this is the thing. It's like I'm trying to juggle them. Yeah, it's really tough because Diavolo is he's an interesting character. Yeah, he's like a tragedy, but I feel as if they didn't develop him in certain areas. And again,
not fully well.
Yeah, right? Like it is weird how it's like, and again, I'm using a Scooby-Doo analogy, but it's like the fact that it's like they hide him and it's like, who's that guy under the mask? And then like literally the second half it's like, oh, it's Doppio, okay, hi Doppio, kind of thing. But overall, and maybe he's a bit whiny, like when he becomes full Diavolo he's a bit kind of like me, but it's like a Muppet.
Yeah. Like actually though.
Yeah. What about you though? Like, how would you rate? I would probably say 3.
Number 3. Okay. Honestly, I think I would agree with that. I would, because the reason why I like him so much is because he was so how Araki handled his storytelling of Diavolo was different in a good way. You know, like you said before, all of the villains or everything before part 5, all the villains before part 5, Kira to a certain extent had some mystique to him as well. But then part 2, he was just fully transparent. He's just like, you know what? I'm a serial killer. Here it is, right?
Yeah.
He decided to become like essentially like what Dio is in a sense of like, I'm Dio. You know, I want to rule the world.
Yeah.
The Pillar Man walking, I was like, yeah, we're going to destroy this world and no one can stop us because we're that strong, right? And I'm like, okay. What I did like about Diavolo is that they sort of built him up to be someone very powerful. Yeah. In a sense that, like, you've heard his name. Well, you haven't heard his name. You've heard that he just goes by the boss.
Yeah.
No one has ever seen this guy, and yet they fear this man that they have never seen before, right? Mm-hmm. So that in a sense, like, sets the tone for him. And it's like, okay, he's someone you definitely shouldn't mess with, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then the main cast is like, we're going to mess with the boss after, like, the first half of the show, right?
Yeah.
And then, the moment his reveal happened was very interesting. It wasn't executed as well as it should have been, as you did bring up before, how like they didn't 100% develop him the way he should have been developed, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, other than that, say if they did it perfectly, the development, I'd probably put him at number 2. But number 3 for Diavolo for me as well.
I feel as if part 5 has some really interesting concepts that either goes too far or doesn't go far enough.
100%.
And again, like, I'm not saying overall, like, I was kind of surprised when I got into this part and everyone was saying, oh, this is my favourite part, this is the best part of JoJo. Personally, for me, and again, very subjective, but for me, this, nah, not for me. I would definitely place part 5, maybe 3rd or 4th. Like, and again, this isn't me saying, like, part 5 is bad. This is just me saying it's got, like, a lot of competition. Yeah. Like, if I had to judge it,
100%.
Definitely part 4 first, and then maybe part 2, but, you know, like, they're probably interchangeable. Like, probably tied for first place.
I would agree with that. I'm like, ooh, that's a tough one.
Then maybe part 5 and part 1 are interchangeable. Like, maybe part 5 and then part 1. But I do, I have, like, a soft spot for part 1. Because it's so just ridiculous.
I like part 1 too. I get it, right? Yeah. Like it was an interesting one. It's not a lot of people's favorites, but it was an interesting one, yeah. And
then part 3, just way at the bottom. In fact, no, sorry, there's a gap, and then it's part 3.
You really don't. You really don't like part 3, huh?
Just there are. It's not the worst, but it's just there's so much in it. I'm just like, come on. Come on.
Oh my god.
But no, like, jokes aside, like, what would you say? Where would this part rank in your list?
I would agree with you that, you know, it would be probably like number 3 for me. Because they definitely did something different. You know, it did succeed in some parts, but, you know, kind of fell short in other parts. Number 1, ooh. Yeah, like you said, like, number 1 would be tied with part 4 and part 2. Yeah, like, I feel like I'd have the same ranking system as you. Part 1 would definitely be a below part 5 for me. And then, you know, part 3, as much as I do love Jotaro and all those beatdowns, like, story-wise, could it use work, you know what I mean?
I mean, again, it's like going back to that idea that it is just... They were working out, like, the kind of things that introducing a new power system entails, and I get that, but it's definitely the weakest, I would say, and this is me being very biased here, being like, no, you may only like part 4. Like, if, honestly, like, in all seriousness, for anyone listening, like, if you like part 3 the best, or it's nostalgic to you, fair dues, like, definitely enjoy it. Enjoy it before you listen to part 3 of this series, because I apologise in advance. Blowfish made me do it.
I'm like, come on, Salt, you gotta apologize. Otherwise,
I'm still waiting for that money transfer. I mean, God.
Yeah. I think it was like 500 euros.
Oh, yeah, like exactly.
I forgot how much I paid him. I paid him a lot. But
yeah. We're working.
All my sub money goes. All my sub money goes to Satsunami 42. You guys heard it here.
Yeah. We're working at a system essentially.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But yeah, like, overall, like, have you got any just like closing thoughts about this part?
Part 5. I thought that, you know, because it was so different from the rest of like the first 4 parts, due to the fact that, one, you know, we're not dealing with a direct JoJo descendant. Right? It is like very, very indirect how he's related, because, you know, Dio stole Jonathan's body and, you know, had sex with a lot of women. And then one of those kids turned out to be Giorno.
Ta-da!
So, ta-da, exactly, right? So you're like, it's a weird sort of like feeling of like, so you're Dio's kid, yes, but you're also a JoJo because, you know, Dio stole the body of the very first JoJo. So, you know, like, it's a weird sort of indirect relation, but like some people tend to forget that he's also a JoJo too. I don't know if that's just you. Do you have that feeling, Satsu? Like, oh yeah, he's a JoJo, right?
Yeah, I have to admit, like, you kind of forget he's a JoJo at times. You're just like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, the main focal point was like, he's Dio's kid. That's it.
It's just, the weird thing is they do like dive into like his backstory, kind of, but they don't really mention. Well, they reference Dio, but he's not like a figure in his life. He ends up, you know, he has a tragic story of he's getting abused and everything by his mafia father, I think, or stepfather, and his mum's like always away gambling and everything, and it is very tragic. But then
it's really sad.
Like, after that, it's like, yeah, he saves like a mafia guy from getting executed, and then because of that, like he ends up following that kind of life or wanting to like look up to that guy and follow that way of life, while the guy's like, yeah, but probably not the best idea for a 5-year-old.
Yeah, definitely not. You just don't be like your dad. If you want to beat people up, probably kill them at one point.
Yeah, probably not the best. It's definitely an interesting take, though. It's an interesting take to, at least for the JoJo universe as a whole, almost, because as we said before, we've got part 1 that is basically the hero's journey, stopping vampires, that kind of thing. Part 2 is kind of similar, but it's a lot more globe-trotty. It's like, do you remember those old like films for kids? Maybe not Disney, but you got those films for kids where it was like part 1, because they didn't have much of a budget, it's like they would stay in the one location, and then part 2 was like the bigger, the badder.
Yeah.
And it's like they'd be going like, they'd be going to London, they'd be going to France, they'd be going to
France, they're going to Italy, and all that. So.
It's like, and that's what part 2 felt like. Part 3, again, Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, actually though.
But it was all over the place. Part 4, definitely like reins
very
it in.
relatable.
Yeah, and absolutely. Well, we both spoke about it in the last episode, but it's just so much more intimate and just so good. And then we get part 5, which isn't exactly stopping the end of the world, but it's not stopping the end of a town. It's like expanded to the country, or at least a significant proportion.
It's more, that one was more about stopping someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't think Diablo had plans to take over the world, just to rule over Italy. So well, part 3 was about stopping the end of the world, as was the first 2 parts as well, in a way. Part 4 was like stopping the end of a town. And then this one was more just like stopping someone, you know what I mean? Yeah. Someone who's very dangerous, clearly, so yeah.
And yeah, it does its job, I think. It
does, yeah. And
I feel like, I again, the last time I'll say this, I don't want to undersell it, but it does kind of feel sometimes where it's like it's serviceable at some moments. Some moments it's fantastic, but then other moments you're just kind of like, okay, we've dealt with this threat, we're going to go into the next guy and everything, and Bruno's going to put them to bed and everything. It's going to be fine. Pretty much. It's interesting, but again, it's not the worst part of JoJo by any means, but it's definitely not, personally for me, like I know this is like people's favourite part, like completely, so I completely understand why, but for me personally, I think it is good, but it's not that gold. God, this is going to sound so cliche. It's like, it's not that golden experience I was hoping for. But
no, I think, not really.
Maybe it's just because I was so oversold on it. Everyone was talking about it, saying, oh, it's so great, it's the best part ever, and it's like, after watching part 4 and getting hyped, I was like, maybe I just had too high expectations. Maybe I need to rewatch it in all seriousness.
Yeah, maybe one day I'd have to rewatch it, because I kind of speedran it, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Because I have to admit, like, although like I've given kind of concrete evidence on these episodes, like I'm always open to like changing my mind on some things, be like to rewatch it and be like, okay, maybe that part that I ranted about isn't as bad, and vice versa, except for part 3. But that's another. Again, listen to the part 3 of this episode. I'm joking. To an extent, I'm joking.
To an extent.
No, I am joking, as the kids say.
Joking.
Oh. Oh, you're joking with me.
I can't joke without you. I can't joke to you without getting close.
Oh, well.
Are you vaccinated?
Well,
then come as close as you like.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what a way to end this retrospective.
I know, right? Damn.
Oh, I can't believe, like, genuinely, just to wrap up, I cannot believe we have gone through all 5 parts already.
I can't believe it either, man. Like, I'm glad that you invited me to help you do this, and I was more than glad to, and it's a lot of fun doing these episodes, man, so thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And honestly, like, you're the best person I could think of to, talk JoJo with me, and I knew you were hyped when I said, I was like, would you like to talk about JoJo? Yes.
I'd be like, yes. Yes. More like yes.
Yes. Oh. Oh, but no, man, it's honestly been like such a blast doing these episodes with you. It's been
blast with you, man.
fantastic,
Same.
and I really can't wait for when part 6 comes out, and then we can we can watch it and then talk about it, because I'm really excited. As I said, like I know kind of what happens in part 6, like I know bits and pieces, but and I mean I started the manga, sort of, kind of, so I got like a good few chapters into it, but yeah, I don't know whether it's just worth waiting for the anime.
We'll see, yeah. Oh yeah, we'll see.
So yeah.
Hey, I did read the manga. I might have to reread it again if we're actually going to just talk about the manga, if that's the case, because I'm like, oh yeah, there's definitely some parts I definitely like sort of speed ran.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I might read it like in anticipation, I have to admit.
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
for
sure.
No, definitely. It's going to be great. Like, once it comes out in like 2050. No, it'll come out. It'll come out in the next like year or two, I think.
Oh yeah, a year or two.
Yeah. But once
10 years later.
10 years later. So good. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. So yeah, thank you again for like joining me in this crazy bizarre adventure. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, where can these you know it's coming, so apologies. But where can these awesome people listening to this part find you?
Awesome. Okay, yeah, guys, my name is BlowfishmanTV. Twitch.tv/BlowfishmanTV is where you can find me 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm a lawyer on Mondays. I'm trying to get out of hell on Fridays. I might also take another job, being part of the Yakuza. You might see that. And on Fridays, we got an office job that requires me to slay a witch. So if any of those 3 weird things, like impresses you guys for some odd reason, feel free. Twitch.tv/BlowfishmanTV, man. That's where I am.
Sorry, I was just laughing there when you said part of the Yakuza, because I'm imagining you, but just like in the, the get-up that Giorno has at the end of this part. It's like, hey, Blowfish, how's the stream going?
Wants to draw me in that outfit, feel free. I will laugh. I will and send it to me on Twitter or like drop it in my Discord. I'd be like, hey, come on, like this is amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fact that someone took hours or even minutes out of their day to draw me in that, you know what I mean?
It's like, how's the stream go? Oh, okay. You're ahead of the Yakuza now.
How's the stream go? So this is how I feel.
It's like, that meme where it's like how it started versus
how it ended.
How it's going. It's like, I'm ahead of the Yakuza now. It's like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, goodness. And yeah, if you want to catch more of my content, you can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and of course Twitch. Honestly, this list just gets longer and longer. Under the name Satsunami42. If you want to catch any past episodes of Chatsunami, including this retrospective series, you can catch Chatsunami on Anchor, Spotify, and really all good podcast distributors. Just type in Chatsunami and it'll come up. There is also, I'm pleased to announce for the very first time, I am pleased to announce that there is a dedicated YouTube channel to Chatsunami. So if you want to see all of these parts, just basically grouped together into one handy dandy playlist, then you can catch it on YouTube at Chatsunami. Okay. And yeah, I'm really excited because this series is like I don't want to say it's quarantined off. It's like
quarantined off.
Yeah, keep the JoJo out the main Chatsunami.
Pretty much.
Actually, no, I tell you why, because well, as of recording this episode, there will be obviously the 5 parts, and there is an extra episode where yourself, Blowfish, and I basically talk about the whole series, overall retrospective of it. And that was another fun one. That was one of the live shows.
That was a ton of fun, yeah.
It was really good. So yeah, if you're interested in that, if you just want a kind of overview of the series rather than diving like deep into the parts, feel free to jump in there.
Awesome.
Honestly, Blowfish, it has honestly been like a pleasure, and it's been
likewise,
so
man.
good.
I love working with you. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. Same to you. Genuinely, same to you. It's been awesome. It really has. And as always, guys, stay safe, stay awesome, stay hydrated, and if your turtles, tortoises, or any amphibians really start talking to you, promising to give you stands, probably give that tortoise away.
Yep.
Don't listen to it, especially if it's got a French accent, because then
it's got a French accent. Then you're gonna deal with people with like pink hair, and they're gonna try and kill you.
Italian mafia.
Oh, yeah.
It's not worth
Italian
the risk.
mafia will come knocking at your door, guys. Trust us.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk.
Nope, not at all.
Bye, guys.
See ya.